Chapter 393, The Devil Lord That's Being Disliked. Lu Mu Yen saw the scorching yearning in Zi Chaisher's eyes. She raised her head and swept the celestial land like floating islands surrounded by spiritual clouds. She discovered that each floating island not only had a spiritual energy gathering array, but also integrated an attack and defense array, isolating all divine sense and sonic waves outside. You mean that only the top 10 people on the inner sect's contribution points can buy usage time of floating islands? Zi Chaisher smiled and shook his head. All inner sect pupils can buy the usage time of floating islands, but the contribution points spent is extremely astonishing. Some people have calculated that only the top 10 pupils in the rankings can afford it. How long can I buy some living time with 100,000 contribution points? Lu Mu Yen asked after thinking for a bit. A month or so. Zi Chaisher said with a bitter smile. You obtained 100,000 sect contribution points for killing Shin Mu Feng. Although you're ranked first in the outer sect, but you might not even rank in the top 100 in the inner sect. Lu Mu Yen furrowed her brows. Only a month? What a fraud. Spending 100,000 contribution points to live on a floating island for a month felt like a luxury now. No wonder only the top 10 have the ability to buy time. She used to think that her sect contribution points was quite high, but who knew that after Zi Chaisher said that, it didn't seem that high at all. All the consumptions in the inner sect require contribution points. Usually the resources issued by the sect aren't enough to be used. If there's no contribution points, it's impossible to do anything in the inner sect. Zi Chaisher explained. The contribution points for killing a sword saint can only equate to 1 month of time on a floating island. So how do other people obtain contribution points? Lu Mu Yen was speechless. Although the sect has issued wanted orders, but they don't encourage pupils in the sect to do wanted missions. After all, those on the wanted list are not only powerful but also very ruthless, so the contribution points reward is relatively disproportionate to the risk of the reward. Zi Chaisher said. Seeing a bit of confusion in her eyes, Zi Chaisher continued to explain. Each pupil of the inner sect is an outstanding genius on Tianling continent. The sect doesn't want those elite pupils to be lost in the hands of the wanted just for training. The other training missions are also very dangerous, but the nature of those are different. Lu Mu Yen nodded. Understandable. If the sect went to so much trouble to raise a peerless genius with their resources, but they all died thanks to those wanted criminals in a mission, then how much of a loss that'd be? Actually, I don't know the specific method of earning contribution points in the inner sect. I only know that if you want better and high-quality cultivation environments and resources, then you must first work hard to earn contribution points. Zi Chaisher sighed and said, the competition in the inner sect isn't at the same level as those in the outer sect. Exchange with contribution points? Interesting. Lu Mu Yen hooked the corner of her lips. No matter where, one couldn't gain benefits without working hard for it. The sect couldn't possibly blindly give. It was more interesting and challenging for her to strive for everything by herself. Zi Chaisher's lips twitched violently. What seemed extremely hard and bitter to them turned out to be interesting to her. The tiger-faced eagle beast took them to the entrance of the main hall in the central area, then flew away. A pupil outside the door saw the two coming down from above and walked over with a smile. Are junior brother and junior sister here to report to the inner sect? We were ordered to report today. Zi Chaisher handed over the welcome token for the two of them. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. After the pupil checked it, there was a bit of surprise in his eyes. He raised his head and looked at the two of them again with an even deeper smile on his face. Junior brother, junior sister, come with me. After taking Lu Mu Yen and Zi Chaisher to the management office of the main hall, he left. Steward Wang at the inner sect registration office. Give me your original identity tokens. Steward Wang looked at the two with a kind smile and said. After the two handed the identity tokens over, Steward Wang put them away, then took out 2 new jade tokens for them, then said, imprint your own essence on this. This is your new pass to the inner sect in the future, you must keep it well. After receiving the identity jade token, Steward Wang took the two to the resource management office to receive an interspatial ring each, which contained the uniform of the inner sect and some resources for newly promoted inner sect pupils. Each inner sect pupil has individual residences. Core pupils can also open a cave in a fixed spiritual mountain by themselves. Because the two of you are going to the pagodas of enlightenment tomorrow, you can temporarily live here today. After you come out of the pagoda of enlightenment, there will naturally be someone who will arrange your accommodations. Steward Wang took the two to a side hall where they lived exclusively. Yes, thank you, Steward Wang. The two replied with a smile. After Steward Wang left, Lu Muyen and Zi Chaisher greeted each other and went back to their rooms to rest. The spiritual force here is so dense. Bing Ji jumped from her shoulder to the table, picked up a teapot and poured himself a glass of water, then said with dislike, "This spiritual water is good, but the spiritual tea sure is bad." Lu Muyen rolled her eyes at him. "It's already good that they even offer it." The tea leaves she used to brew tea was all top-grade spiritual tea that Gai Mingxiu gifted before separating. Not many people on this continent could afford it, and one couldn't buy it even if they had spiritual stones. Compared to the spiritual tea of the sect, it was like heaven and earth. "I heard that you can't bring spirit pets to the pagodas of enlightenment together. You should all stay here and cultivate well." Lu Muyen glanced at Bing Ji. "You've already reached peak phase tier 8, he'll give you a few pills in a bit, you should quickly break through during this time." Although it's difficult to break through to tier 9 demonic beast, but Bing Ji's innate divine beast talent determined that he wouldn't have a huge bottleneck when advancing to tier 9 like other demonic beasts. "Alright, little owner, don't worry, I've already sensed a sliver of opportunity to break through." Bing Ji had been cultivating pretty hard recently, mainly because Miao Miao and Shui were now on the same tier as him and he felt it was very embarrassing. "Work hard." Lu Muyen smiled meaningfully at him, then poked Mo Yen and said, "During my absence, watch them closely and don't go out to cause trouble." Let's put your pendant here too. The pagodas of enlightenment should have a high-level array that scans automatically. Jun Luochen will most likely be discovered if he follows you in." Mo Yen thought for a while and said. Lu Muyen took the pendant off her neck and tossed it to Mo Yen like some hot potato. If the superiors of the sect knew that she had been raising a devil race, they'd definitely skin her. It's honestly really dangerous to carry this devil lord around. Jun Luochen was a ticking hidden danger. She really didn't know if it was good or bad to keep him to cooperate with. He sure was troublesome. Mo Yen waved his paw in dislike and the pendant fell around Bing Ji's neck. "I don't like the aura on him." There were frequent wars between the devil realm and the demon realm, and he didn't like that dark evil aura that the devil lord Jun Luochen carried. Jun Luochen, who was being disliked by the one person and one beast, twitched the corner of his mouth speechlessly. There was also a day where he, a dignified devil realm's devil lord, would also be this disliked by a human and demon. Chapter 394. The Pagodas of Enlightenment. Early the next morning, an elder brought Lu Muyen and Zi Chaisher to the central hall. At this time, the sect leader and elder Ao Rong were both sitting in the center of the main hall, and there were more than a dozen pupils standing in front of them. As soon as Lu Muyen approached, they found that the 11 pupils had a strong aura even when restrained. It could be seen that these people were the old pupils of the inner sect, and Lu Muyen saw Jin Se among the 11 people. Jin Se cast a kind smile at Lu Muyen and blinked. At the same time, many of the 11 people looked at the two of them in unison, with gazes of playfulness, indifference, disdain, the whole lot. Then several elders brought the new pupils from other schools, who could enter the pagodas of enlightenment to cultivate here. Lu Muyen recognized Di Shi Tian and Yin Hong among them. When everyone had arrived, the sect leader cleared his throat lightly and said to the pupils below, "I think you all know the purpose of gathering you here today. The sect's specialization Pagodas of Enlightenment is about to open, which is a very rare opportunity." The sect leader paused, then said, "In the past, pupils who wanted to enter the Pagodas of Enlightenment to comprehend and cultivate must achieve a certain contribution points value or have certain talent recognized by the guardian elders of the Pagodas of Enlightenment. However, the situation this time is special, especially the new pupils who have entered the inner sect must seize this opportunity. You'll all represent the 8 extreme sect in the coming 6 major sects grand competition in 3 months. The most important thing is that this competition is related to the number of places each of the 6 major sects can obtain to enter the land of inheritance, so the hope of the entire sect is placed on you all." The sect leader's solemn gaze landed on the 9 newly promoted inner sect pupils including Lu Muyen. Hearing him say this, all the pupils were stunned. Lu Muyen had long known about this from Huoling Long, but she also revealed a surprised expression at the right time. "Sect leader, do you mean that we need newly promoted inner pupils to compete for the places for the land of inheritance?" A mature-looking man among the old pupils stood up and cupped his hands to the sect leader as he asked. The sect leader sighed and replied, "This decision was made by the ancestors of the 6 major sects, and no one dares to change it. But they would only have been in the inner sect for 3 months before participating in the 6 major sects grand competition. Isn't this a little suspenseful?" A burly-looking, straightforward pupil asked with furrowed brows. "The other sects will also have newly promoted inner sect pupils participate in the grand competition." There is no doubt about this, that's why we're opening the pagodas of enlightenment to let them enter and cultivate. Presumably other sects will also try their best to improve the strength of their newly promoted pupils in the next 3 months. The sect leader said. Since they're all standing on the same starting line, then it's fair. It's just that in the past, during the grand competition, us 8 extreme sect is always last. This time, it's related to places for the land of inheritance. Our 8 extreme sect is at a very disadvantageous spot. The mature-looking man spoke again. The sect leader's eyes also revealed some concern. This is also something that can't be helped. The rules set by the ancestors need to be followed even if our 8 extreme sect is wiped out in the grand competition. In the last 6 major sects grand competition, the 8 extreme sect only won 3rd place in the combat competition and took 2nd place in the array competition, while in all the other specializations, they were completely wiped out. Enough now, it's useless to talk so much about it. Elder Ao Rong said with a stern expression. This time, the newly promoted pupils of the inner sect are all rather good, and they may achieve excellent results. What you have to worry about now is how you can comprehend more in the pagodas of enlightenment. Yes. Ao Rong, take them to the pagodas of enlightenment. The sect leader said as he waved his hand. Yes, senior brother. Ao Rong used a flying magic tuk to bring the group to a hidden hall. After activating the array, he then used the teleportation array to teleport them all the secret area of the 8 extreme sect. After entering the secret area, Lu Muyen saw 5 towering stone pagodas in front of her, revealing a feeling as if it had all experienced the vicissitudes of life, and each pagoda of enlightenment exuded the pressure of a high-level divine tool. Ao Rong, so you're the leader this time. An elder walked out from each of the 5 pagodas of enlightenment. One of them calmly looked at the 20 people behind Ao Rong and said, this time, the pupils look pretty good overall. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks, to make you old things say good, it seems that we still have hope of winning the grand competition between the 6 major sects. Ao Rong said with a smile. The corners of the other elders' mouths twitched. This fellow Ao Rong just liked to cater. When wasn't there 8 extreme sect last? This group of pupils appeared good, but the newly promoted inner pupils from other sects were even better. Alright, let me talk about the rules for entering the pagodas of enlightenment. One of the elders who seemed to be highly respected stroked his gray beard and said, there are 5 pagodas of enlightenment, namely the Alchemy Pagoda, Talisman Pagoda, Smith Pagoda, Array Pagoda, and Taming Pagoda. Each pagoda is divided into 9 floors. Each floor of the pagodas of enlightenment has detailed enlightenment walls. You can start to comprehend when you insert your mental energy into the wall. If a pupil has a deep understanding of the things on the first floor of a pagoda of enlightenment, the pagoda of enlightenment will automatically activate and send the person to the 2nd floor and so on, until you reach the limit of your comprehension, then the pagoda of enlightenment will send the pupil outside the pagoda. Of course, the higher the floors you're on in the pagodas of enlightenment, it means the more you have comprehended, and the stronger your talent for that specialization. The opportunity is in front of you. After entering a pagoda of enlightenment, first adjust your mentality. If you can enter the empty state, then it would be the best. If you've comprehended it to the limit and is teleported out, then don't force it. The elder introduced the rules of the pagodas of enlightenment. Yes. The 20 people replied in unison. If you have any questions, you can ask them now. After an incense stick of time, you can enter the pagodas to comprehend. The elder paused, then said, Elder, this junior has a question. One of the old pupils stood up and said, Speak. Do we choose which of the 5 pagodas of enlightenment we enter, or are they arranged by elders? You choose for yourself. If someone doesn't only have one specialization, then after they are teleported out of a pagoda of enlightenment, they can continue to enter another pagoda of enlightenment. Excuse me, elder, what is the highest floor of the pagodas of enlightenment has a pupil of the sect entered? A pupil asked with expectation and confidence. Among the 5 pagodas of enlightenment, a peerless genius of the 8 extreme sect who has already ascended to Guangling world has comprehended to the 7th floor, and it's the 7th floor of 4 pagodas. Hearing the elder say this, many people had longing and varying emotions in their eyes. Lu Muyan's eyes were filled with interest. She sure wanted to see just how one comprehended in the pagodas. As long as the pupils who enter the pagoda comprehend to the 5th floor, then your future achievements will be extraordinary. You should all work hard. Here, the pupils and elders exchanged questions and answer, and soon an incense stick of time arrived. Alright, you can choose one of the pagodas of enlightenment to enter. All 5 pagodas can be entered for comprehension, but the time spent altogether cannot exceed 2 months. After 3 months was the 6th major sex grand competition, so the longest time for comprehending in the pagodas of enlightenment was 2 months. But although they said 2 months, the elders of each pagoda didn't take it to heart. Because except for the peerless genius who ascended and took 1 month and a half altogether in the 4 pagodas, the others used, at most, 1 month to comprehend. Chapter 395. Ao Rong sets a trap. Lu Mu Yen and the others entered the pagods of enlightenment in turn. Among the 20 people, most chose the array pagoda, the alchemy pagods, and the smithing pagods, with the least being the talisman pagods, so she first entered the talisman pagods. There was also Zi Che Shur who entered the talisman pagoda with her. As soon as they stepped into the gate of the pagods, they were teleported to an independent space. There was a yellow crystal wall in the space, the material unknown, and several round cushions were placed in front of the crystal wall. Lu Mu Yen and Zi Che Shur glanced at each other with a smile, then each chose a round cushion to sit on cross-legged without speaking. Neither of them were in a hurry to comprehend, but instead quietly adjusted their states. When they were in their best state in their sea of consciousness, they began to use their mental energy to penetrate into the crystal wall. As soon as Lu Mu Yan's mental energy touched the crystal wall, an energy forcefully sucked her mind into it. She wasn't nervous. She relaxed her body and began to accept it. Immediately, her mental energy turned into a little person the size of a palm and appeared in a dark space, pitch black without end. She looked around calmly and indifferently, then heard a mechanical voice. Choose a direction and keep walking. Don't miss the scenery along the way. When you reach the limit at the end, you will be sent out of the first floor. Lu Mu Yen closed her eyes, then when she opened them, she had a firm look in them. She didn't think much about it and walked directly in the direction she faced when teleported in. Walking aimlessly in the dark space, she discovered that she was like a mortal, having lost all her spiritual energy, and her mental energy couldn't explore what was ahead either. She even felt that she was completely powerless. This walk took her 1 day and 1 night. She didn't stop. On the 2nd day, a light screen suddenly appeared on the road ahead. She stopped and watched quietly. The light screen ahead was an introduction to the basic knowledge of talismans, which was easy to understand and very detailed. After she finished watching the first screen, she closed her eyes and quietly recalled the images that appeared on the screen earlier. After the spiritual experience, she continued to step forward. Just like this, she continued to walk and continued to watch as if having walked a year to 10 years of time. When a dazzling light suddenly appeared in front of her, Lu Mu Yen was teleported out of the crystal wall and fell into another independent space. In a stone house beside the pagods of enlightenment, the elders of the 5 pagodas and Ao Rong drank wine while chatting and watching the small reflection projected from a crystal ball. Someone entered the 2nd floor already? An elder swept the image projection of the talisman pagoda and made a sound of confusion. Others looked over, and when Ao Rong saw that Lu Mu Yen was the first to comprehend to the 2nd floor, he laughed loudly. The person dug here by this old man sure is extraordinary. Maybe this little girl can comprehend to the 7th floor. Just keep boasting. This little girl's talent might not be bad, but it's just indulging in a wild fantasy to think she can comprehend to the 7th floor. The guardian elder of the talisman pagoda rolled his eyes at him. I think it's already amazing if she can comprehend to the 5th floor. Elder Ao Rong pursed his lips. Don't underestimate this girl, you old thing. She shouldn't be compared to ordinary people. Which of the inner pupils who can enter the pagodas of enlightenment are ordinary? In the end they all stopped below 7th floor. The elder of the alchemy pagoda said. Over so many years, apart from the one who comprehended to the 7th floor, the best result was that Di Shifeng who comprehended to the 6th floor of the array pagoda the last time the pagodas of enlightenment were opened. The elder of the array pagoda said proudly. Ao Rong raised an eyebrow and asked, Di Shifeng comprehended to the 6th floor, doesn't that mean he's already a grade 6 array master? It can only be said that he's more likely to become a grade 6 array master. The elder of the array pagoda paused, then continued, the floors of each of the 5 pagodas of enlightenment only mean that the person may reach that achievement in the future and doesn't represent that they already have that ability. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. Of course there are also people who have comprehended to the 5th floor, but when they combine comprehension and opportunities, they can also enter a higher level. On the contrary, the pupils who can comprehend to the 6th floor might not necessarily become a grade 6 array master. The higher the floor one comprehends, it means the better their talent. Generally, there's a 60% chance of the person reaching the specialization level corresponding to the pagoda floor. The elder of the array pagoda smiled mysteriously. as far as this old one knows, Di Shifeng 1 only just advanced to grade 6 array master, and he's also a genius pupil, first of the inner sect to become a grade 6 in a specialization. The eyes of the several elders revealed surprise and praise. Di Shifeng was indeed a very good pupil in the inner sect. He was also the one who won second place in the array competition between the 6 major sects last time. Hearing the elder of the array pagoda praise Di Shifeng so highly, Ao Rong remembered Lu Muyan's performance in her array talents. It's undeniable that the talent of Di Shifeng too is indeed excelling, but Lu girl definitely isn't outmatched. If you don't believe it, just watch. He had an inexplicable confidence in Lu Muyan. Come on, that little girl was dug over by you from the Tianling Continental Tournament for hegemony, of course you'd say that. The elder of the smithing pagoda sneered. You don't believe me? Ao Rong asked with a snort and raised an eyebrow. Don't believe. The 5 guardian elders of the 5 pagodas responded invariably. Then why don't we make a bet? Ao Rong suggested. The elder of the talisman pagoda looked at Lu Muyan, who was still comprehending on the 2nd floor, and asked with a smile, what kind of bet? In betting that Lu Muyan will be able to comprehend to the 6th floor and above in the alchemy pagoda, array pagoda, and talisman pagoda. Ao Rong appeared confident. If I lose, he'll give you a jug of high-level blood sack wine. If you lose, give me the pagoda spirit's force you've accumulated over the past 10 years. The several people exchanged a look with each other, then sneered, you have spiritual wine brewed from blood sack? Keep boasting. Fine, I'll give you a taste first. If you don't bet, then you'll regret it later. With a thought from Ao Rong, a pot of blood sack wine appeared on the table. The elder of the alchemy pagoda took the lead in picking up the jug and pouring a cup. The red liquid in the cup was so transparent that there wasn't a single bit of impurity in it at all, and a fragrant aroma of wine emanated from the cup. He took a sip immediately, and his eyes that had been a little cloudy lit up. The sweetness is clear, the aftertaste is endless, and it has the effect of improving cultivation. Good wine. When the other elders saw him lift the jug to pour a second cup, they quickly grabbed the jug and poured a drink each. After they finished, they all cried, good wine. Good wine. This old one hasn't tasted such quality blood sack wine in so long. Ao Rong, where did you get this blood sack wine? Stream Reflection Restaurant? Ao Rong said disdainfully, with just the skills of those stingy damned old things from the Stream Reflection Restaurant? Don't ask where the wine comes from, just give one word, bet or not. The several elders were all old alcoholics, and they didn't believe that Lu Muyan could comprehend to the 6th floor at all, so they immediately agreed, bet. Why won't we bet? It seems that you have to go back and prepare some more jugs of blood sack wines. There was a hint of slyness in Ao Rong's eyes. This blood sack wine was given to him by Lu girl last time. Even if he really lost the bet, had just go ask Lu girl for it. But if he won the bet with these 5 old fellows and obtained the pagoda spirit's force from them, then gift it to Lu Muyan, he believed that with that as an exchange he could obtain a lot of spiritual wine from that little girl. He was also an alcoholic, and just thinking about how he could obtain more spiritual wine from Lu Muyan, his entire person glowed with a strange brilliance. Good, straightforward, high five for an agreement. One Lul Emperor killing wind now, the elder brother of Emperor slaughtering heaven. Aha, 2 Emperor Feng slaying Ha. Chapter 396. Stepping into the 7th floor, Lu Muyan, who was comprehending on the 2nd floor, didn't know about Ao Rong's bet with the several elders. She was currently walking continuously in the dark space on the 2nd floor. When the first scene appeared, she found that the introduction of talismans on the screen had become a demonstration by a talisman master. After remembering the production methods and techniques on the screen, she continued to follow the dark road with no end in sight, only this time, it took twice as long to see the 2nd screen. The time in the space passed little by little, as if 20 years had passed just like that. When the dazzling light at the end appeared, Lu Muyan successfully entered the 3rd floor to comprehend. At this time, there were many people who comprehended to the 2nd floor, but still much slower than her. In this way she kept walking and viewing in the hidden dark space. Each floor of images showed different things. Later, although it was all talisman masters who were demonstrating, but the difficulty had obviously increased significantly. When she arrived on the 5th floor, during the making of talismans demonstrated by the talisman master in the video, there were even a few rare talismans. On Tianling continent, these refining methods had long been lost and was very precious. With each additional floor, the time it took to find and walk in the dark doubled, or even by tenfold. The content performed in the images were very fast and only appeared once. If one didn't remember it, then they would lose the opportunity to continue to comprehend. Each time after Lu Muyen watched the images on the screen, she would sit cross-legged and rest while recalling it to comprehend. She had always had a talent for making talismans, and with the accumulations of her past life, she could remember the contents of the video after seeing it only once. In the immortal cultivation world, except for alchemy that was carefully taught by master, she was self-taught in all the other specializations, so it was inevitable that although she was proficient in the skills, but it wasn't comprehensive. After comprehending to the 5th floor of the Talisman Pagoda, she found that many questions that she couldn't understand before suddenly became clear after watching the video, and many skills were also integrated with the things she had mastered herself with the things in the video, and she benefited a lot. That girl is about to finish the 5th floor. The elder of the Talisman Pagoda said nervously, staring at the reflection in the crystal ball. At this time they hoped both that Lu Muyen could walk out of the 5th floor and enter the 6th floor, but also worried that she would go to the 6th floor, because they would lose the pagoda spirit's force that they had worked so hard to accumulate over the past decade. In short, the elders had very contradictory emotions at the time, and they were all watching for her following performances. When the light at the end disappeared, Lu Muyen's lips curled up. So she arrived on the 6th floor? She was really teleported to the 6th floor, and in such a short time. The Talisman Pagoda's guardian elder said in disbelief. Ao Rong revealed a boastful look. What's the fuss about? The little girl's talent is definitely not only this. Hurry and go and prepare the pagoda spirit's force. Humph, you said before that she needed to comprehend to the 6th floor of the Alchemy Pagoda, Array Pagoda, and Talisman Pagoda. She only reached it in the Talisman Pagoda right now. The Talisman Pagoda's elder said. Ao Rong raised an eyebrow. I will do what I say. You think you'll deny it? Just keep your eyes open wide and watch. When Lu Muyen comprehended to the 6th floor, Zi Chaisher entered the 5th floor of the Talisman Pagoda to comprehend, and Di Shirtian also arrived at the crystal wall of the 5th floor to comprehend. The several elders wouldn't help revealing their joy. It seems that the newly promoted inner sect pupils this time aren't bad either. That Di Shirtian is Di Shifeng's blood-related younger brother? The eyes of the elder of the Array Pagoda lit up. He's indeed the younger brother of Di Shifeng. They're also known as the twin pride of Arrays, but the relationship between the brothers is very ordinary. Ao Rong also paid some attention to the Di brothers. I wonder if he can also arrive at the 6th floor like his elder brother? The elder of the Array Pagoda appeared expectant. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks, Di Shifeng one awakened his talent at the age of 3, and Di Shirtian only awakened his talent for cultivation when he was 18 years old, but he isn't weak at all. Like Lu Muyen, he was also famous for being trash. Ao Rong was also rather concerned with the two of them. What? Awakened his talent for cultivation only when he was 18. Then he's achieved what he has in only 4 years? The elder of the Array Pagoda was shocked. If that's the case, isn't he more talented than Di Shifeng too? The elder of the Array Pagoda said. Of course. I actually like these rising stars better. Ao Rong's expression revealed extreme pride. Di Shirtian was also brought to this sect by me, and little Lu girl is even more talented than him. What did you mean when you said that Lu girl and Di Shirtian were both famous for being trash before? Isn't her talent very strong now? The elder of the Talisman Pagoda asked with interest. Before 16, she was born with the terminal meridian's constitution. Later, by chance, she refined the marrow cleansing pill and eradicated the terminal meridian's constitution. Since then, she's been out of control in cultivation, and it only took 2 years to reach the point where she is today. Ao Rong had investigated Lu Muyen's past in depth. The high-level alchemy master she mentioned didn't exist at all. He guessed that the marrow cleansing pill at that time was refined by this girl herself. What? It only took 2 years. This talent is too heaven-defying. The several elders' eyes widened in shock. In 2 years, she cultivated from a sword novice to a peak phase sword venerable, and she was also highly talented in specializations. Such a genius had basically never appeared on Tianling continent before. No wonder it was rumored that those born with terminal meridians are actually the children abandoned by this world, but they're also the favored children by this world. Once their terminal meridians are eradicated, they will soar into the sky. The elder of the Talisman Pagoda sighed with a mix of emotions. While the several people were sighing, the elder of the Smithing Pagoda suddenly stood up and pointed at the crystal reflection and exclaimed, Heavens! Look, she's entering the 7th floor. The others also looked over and happened to see Lu Muyen being teleported to the independent space on the 7th floor. The elder of the Talisman Pagoda was so excited he didn't know what to say. Prodigy. Let's hurry and report this to the sect leader. The elder of the smithing pagoda said. Ao Rong raised his hand to stop them. No need to hurry, it won't be too late to report the results of the comprehension of the other pagodas after the talisman pagoda. What she is best at is actually not talismans. Then what's she best at? Arrays. Based on what I've seen, she is best at arrays, and in the assessment competition for the inner pupils of the sect, she and Di Tian both revealed the ability of a grade 5 array master. Ao Rong replied. The elder of the array pagoda's eyes widened. Such young grade 5 array masters? Immediately, his old face bloomed into a smile and said, It seems that there's really no need to report to the sect leader immediately. This old man sure wants to see which floor she can arrive at in the array pagoda. The calm gazes of the other elders also revealed some hope in addition to surprise. In the talisman pagoda, Lu Muyen didn't rush to begin to comprehend the 7th floor, but instead spent 2 days sitting cross-legged to digest what she had comprehended in the previous 6 floors. When she walked to the 7th floor, Di Tian also stepped into the 6th floor of the array pagoda. 1 Emperor killing Feng XD 2 Emperor Feng Slayer Ha. Chapter 397. Alarmed the superiors of the sect after Lu Muyan's mental energy entered the 7th floor space, it was pitch black as usual. She stepped forward and time passed little by little. In this darkness she walked aimlessly year after year like a mortal. It took a long time this time. Even with Lu Muyan's temperament, she began to wonder if she was walking in the wrong direction. However, after wondering over and over again, she was still firm in her choice. As long as she didn't arrive at the end, then she would continue to walk. Finally, after as if more than 10 years had passed, a projection suddenly appeared in front of her. In the projection was still a high-level talisman master demonstrating the refining process of talismans, but this time the talismans were even rarer and more precious, and there was even a method of suppressing and refining talismans from demonic souls. After the projection was demonstrated in front of her once, it automatically disappeared into the dark space. Occasionally, confusion appeared in her eyes. She stood silently, pondering, but the time she spent here was 10 times longer than the time she spent on the previous floor. When the confusion in her eyes disappeared, and she gradually understood more and more, she continued to walk forward. Time passed little by little, and she seemed to have walked for hundreds of years before she came to the end of the 7th floor space. Walking non-stop in this space, there was no path ahead, only infinite darkness and loneliness. If it wasn't for the numerous trials she experienced, brushing past death in her previous life, and having the patience from the experience that a single cultivation moment could be a century, she might not be able to persist either. Moreover, walking along and wandering in this dark space was very tempering, and the irritability in her heart was gradually smoothed out. When the dazzling light beam on the 7th floor appeared, Lu Muyen stretched out her hand to block the light. It was just that the power of the space didn't teleport her to the 8th floor this time. Just as she was wondering why, the mechanical voice sounded again in this space. The Pagodas of Enlightenment has 9 floors in total, but the space in the lower interface can only accept the memories of 7 floors. The other 2 floors are in Guangling World, and those who have the chance will naturally encounter it and complete their comprehension. Lu Muyen furrowed her brows. The last 2 floors actually needed her to ascend to Guangling World to find the Pagodas of Enlightenment to comprehend. But with some thought she calmed. She had benefited a lot from the inheritance of the first 7 floors. Many things that she barely understood were now all clearly grasped through the demonstration of the projections. Because the last 2 floors didn't exist in the 8 extreme sects Pagodas of Enlightenment, she was teleported out of the Talisman Pagoda. At this time, many people had already been teleported out from the Pagodas of Enlightenment and left, while there were also some people who would go to the other pagodas to continue to comprehend. Next, she walked to the Array Pagoda beside her and began to comprehend. She actually didn't reach the 8th floor. Ao Rong said with some disappointment. The elder of the Talisman Pagoda glanced at him, then after thinking about it still told the truth, there's actually no 8th and 9th floors in these 5 pagodas. What? Why not? Ao Rong asked in surprise. These 9-floor pagodas of enlightenment are said to be a saint tool refined by a powerful almighty from Guangling World. The pagodas of enlightenment here at our 8 extreme sect is just a replica, so the top 2 floors are missing. The elder of the alchemy pagoda said. Then where's the real saint tool? How did our sect obtain a replica? Ao Rong asked in curiosity. The elder of the talisman pagoda rolled his eyes at him. The real saint tool is naturally in Guangling World. As long as one has comprehended to the 7th floor in the replicas, I heard they will all have the opportunity to comprehend the final 2 floors eventually. As for why our sect has the replicas, we don't know either. It seems that it's the founding ancestor that brought it back. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks, that's sure a pity, otherwise with this little girl's comprehension ability, she might really be able to enter the 8th floor. Ao Rong shook his head and sighed. The elder of the alchemy pagoda looked at him speechlessly. Come on, being able to comprehend until the 7th floor is already very impressive. The probability that this little girl will become a grade 7 talisman master in the future is at least 60%. True. If she can ascend to Guangling World in the future, she may even have the opportunity to continue to comprehend the upper 2 floors. Ao Rong said with confidence. The corners of the lips of the elders twitched. She was only at Sword Venerable Cultivation Base and he was already thinking of her ascending to Guangling World? Dream on. The spiritual force of Tianling continent was very thin, and it was very difficult for one to enter into the highest realm. It had already been numerous years since there have been sword masters who have ascended, and they had long given up hope. They were also not going to argue with Ao Rong. This person had too many grand truths, they can't win him verbally. Di Shi Tian 1 has also entered the 7th floor of the Array Pagoda. The elder of the Array Pagoda said in pleasant surprise. Not bad, not bad, it's worth opening the pagodas of enlightenment to produce these 2 geniuses. The elder of the Talisman Pagoda said with a smile. One must know that each time the pagodas of enlightenment were opened, the price they paid was very high. Not only did it require millions of spiritual stones, but it also required the joint efforts of the ancestors of the sect to open the restriction before it could be opened. And the minimal interval between the times it opens was not less than 10 years. Originally, the last time it was open was 3 years ago, so it was reasonable to say that it wouldn't be opened again until after 7 years. But because of the special situation this time, in order to deal with the 6 major sects' grand competition, the several ancestors spent a lot of essence to reopen the pagodas of enlightenment, simply hoping that the newly promoted inner pupils of the 8 Extremes sect could obtain higher achievements and more spots for the land of inheritance. So in fact, the 20 people, including Lu Muyen, were lucky to meet such an opportunity this time, otherwise they would have to wait at least 7 or 8 years before being able to come here. But compared to the 2 of them, the others sure are a lot inferior. The elder of the Taming Pagoda sighed. The pupils who had entered the Taming Pagoda before had only entered the 5th floor at the highest, and they had yet to finish. The overall level of the pupils in this session is already pretty good, but they're all rather inconspicuous because of Lu Muyen and Di Shi Tian, those 2 geniuses. Ao Rong said. True. Look, Lu Muyen already entered the 4th floor of the Array Pagoda. Her speed sure is fast. The elder of the Array Pagoda revealed amazement in his eyes. She has every hope of entering the 7th floor of the Array Pagoda. Hopefully. After entering the Array Pagoda, Lu Muyen found that the properties of the several pagodas were actually the same. Because of her first experience and her foundation in arrays was higher than in talismans, so she easily comprehended until the 6th floor. It also took less time after stepping into the 7th floor. When she came out from the 7th floor and walked to the Alchemy Pagoda, the elders in the stone house couldn't remain calm anymore. Lu Muyen has already passed the 7th floor of 2 pagodas. No, this news must be reported. The elder of the Array Pagoda said excitedly. At this time he had completely forgotten about the bet with Ao Rong. Alright, this old man will report immediately to the sect leader. Ao Rong nodded and immediately walked out of the stone house to find the sect leader. The time outside wasn't the same as the time within the space, but a month still passed just like that. The pupils who entered the pagodas of enlightenment together were teleported out one after the other. Among them, the best results were from Di Shi Tian, with having arrived at the 7th floor of the Array Pagoda and the 6th floor of the Smithing Pagoda. Lu Muyen, however, had already finished comprehending the 7th floor of the Alchemy Pagoda and entered the Smithing Pagoda. At this time, the sect leader also followed a graceful, white-haired middle-aged man with the demeanor of a transcendent being, and a youthful complexion into the secret area. 1 Emperor Slaughterer XD. Chapter 398. Ancestor Yuchan. The several elders guarding the 5 pagodas were stunned when they saw the person in front of the sect leader, and immediately stepped forward to greet them. Greetings, Ancestor. The man said with a gentle smile. No need. He walked to the seat in front of the crystal ball and sat down, then glanced at Lu Muyen, who had just passed to the 7th floor of the Smithing Pagoda. So she's the little girl who has passed through the 7th floor of the Talisman Pagoda, Array Pagoda, and Alchemy Pagoda? The man said slowly. Yes. The elder of the Smithing Pagoda replied. She stayed in the smithing pagoda longer than the other 3 pagodas. I originally thought that she would stop at the 6th floor, but I didn't expect her to reach the 7th floor. The several elders had calmed from the shock and varying emotions, composure gradually arriving after disbelief. They had become numb to Lu Muyan's miracles. The man nodded, and no emotion could be seen in his deep eyes, but his gaze didn't leave the crystal reflection for a moment. Half a month later. Ancestor, I have here a pot of spiritual wine brewed by this girl, would you like a taste? Ao Rong knew that Ancestor Yuchan might not be as calm as he appeared. To think this incident actually alarmed this unpredictable, mysterious Ancestor Yuchan, he naturally wanted to establish a better image for Lu girl. Ancestor Yuchan looked at Ao Rong with a half smile and said, then let's try it. He took the jug that Ao Rong took out and poured out a glass. The fragrant aroma of wine overflowed in the stone house in an instant. High-quality blood sack wine. Ancestor Yuchan questioned, took a sip from the cup, then his calm eyes revealed some light. Not bad. Ao Rong's smile was like a daisy. It wasn't easy for Ancestor Yuchan to say not bad. What, this blood sack wine was actually brewed by that little girl? The elder of the alchemy pagoda looked at Ao Rong in surprise. Really? Ao Rong rolled his eyes at him and said, do I dare to deceive Ancestor? What a joke. If he fooled Ancestor Yuchan with spiritual wine brewed by others, he would definitely be miserable. Although this old fellow's appearance had the demeanor of a transcendent being, but if he really wanted to toy with someone, then that person would definitely rather die than live. Ao Rong, you've done a good job. If such a talented pupil was taken by another sect, then it will definitely be the biggest loss of our 8 extremes sect. Ancestor Yuchan sipped the spiritual wine and thought that this fellow Ao Rong's eyes were truly sharp and vicious. Ao Rong knew that Ancestor Yuchan was complimenting him for doing a good job at digging the walls of the others, and said with a proud smile, you should have seen the ugly expressions of those old things of the other sects. This old man couldn't resist smiling wide at the time. The several elders couldn't bear to look directly at his face, but they couldn't help but admit that this old fellow was indeed good at digging. Ancestor Yuchan smiled lightly, but his expression was filled with joy. He suddenly began to look forward to seeing, during the 6 major sex competitions, whether those damned old things would be detrimentally angered when they saw Lu Muyan's performance. Ancestor, it's boring for you to drink alone, why don't we join you? The elder of the alchemy pagoda was also a winemaker himself, but his winemaking skills were very poor. However, being an alcoholic, he could only go to the Steam Reflection restaurant to buy their limited spiritual wines. This bloodsack wine hooked up all his cravings. Earlier Ao Rong didn't want to take more out to drink no matter what, so now he wanted to drink the wine from Ancestor Yuchan, regardless of his face. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. The several other elders also agreed with a smile and wanted a share. This is Ao Rong showing respect to this old one. Wouldn't it be a waste of his thoughts if I gave it to you all to drink? Ancestor Yuchan glanced at the several people lightly. These old things wanted to share a drink? No way. As an ancestor of the 8 extremes sect, he could naturally drink spiritual wine all year round, but such sweet and pure bloodsack wine was very rare. It was just a pity that its level was still a little low. If it was one level higher, then it would definitely be beneficial to his cultivation. Ao Rong, bring out another jug of wine, and I'll exchange it with you for grade 5 pills. The elder of the alchemy pagoda smacked his lips and said. Ao Rong shrugged helplessly, the last jug was just given to Ancestor. When little Lu girl comes out later, you can go exchange it with her. This wasn't a lie. Lu Muyan gave him more than a dozen jugs of wine, but now he only had 2 jugs left. This time he had contributed it all after coming to this secret area, and his heart also ached. It was just that he could use this reason to get more spiritual wine from Lu Muyan in the future. Then do you have any other spiritual wines? The elder of the alchemy pagoda asked, unwilling to give up. Although he wanted to drink bloodsack wine, but he didn't dare snatch food from a tiger. From Ancestor Yuchan Ao Rong thought about it, then took out 2 jugs of honey spiritual fruit wine and said, this is honey wine Lu girl gave. It said that it could be used to beautify and nourish one's appearance, so I just kept it and didn't drink it. When he heard the words beautify and nourish appearance, he had no interest in this honey wine. Why did he, an old rough man, need to take care of his appearance for? The several elders couldn't help but twitch the corners of their lips after hearing it was to take care of one's appearance. They, as old bones, didn't need such effects, but it was better to have spiritual wine than not, so the elder of the alchemy pagoda picked up a jug and poured a cup. As soon as the wine was poured into the cup, the yellow transparent liquid was extremely pure, and the scent of wine instantly overflowed, even carrying a sweet fragrance. Ancestor Yu Chan's eyes deepened, and he put away the blood sack wine, picked up the honey wine and poured a cup for himself. After taking a sip, there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. This actually turned out to be spiritual wine brewed from century-old scarlet bee honey and numerous different types of spiritual fruits. Not bad. The elder of the alchemy pagoda hurriedly took a sip from his wine cup, then he appeared as if he was drunk in happiness. Good wine, good wine. This wine is of a higher grade than the blood sack wine, and the century-old scarlet bee honey is good for improving our cultivation base. If we drink it regularly, we can even live longer. Seeing that the elder of the alchemy pagoda was so enchanted, the other elders and Ao Rong each poured a cup to drink, then their eyes all lit up. After drinking a cup, Ao Rong immediately reached out to put away the remaining jug of honey wine, but Ancestor Yu Chan was a step ahead and put it away himself. This old man is very interested in the effect of this beauty-enhancing wine. This jug of wine belongs to me. Ao Rong regretted until his intestines were green. He always just thought that this spiritual wine was for women, yet who knew that it could also prolong life and improve his cultivation base. If he had known it before, he wouldn't have taken it out. Ao Rong, bring out 2 more jugs, don't be so stingy. The elder of the alchemy pagoda saw that the remaining jug of wine was taken by Ancestor Yu Chan, so he didn't dare ask for it and could only speak to Ao Rong. Ao Rong rolled his eyes at him angrily. No more. I only took 2 jugs when Lu girl said it could beautify one's appearance. He was also very regretful right now. If he had known earlier, he would have asked for a few more jugs. No wonder he heard that that female tyrant dragon took good care of Lu Muyen. It was probably because she could drink this honey wine every day. Hearing him say that, the other elders looked at him as if he had wasted something exceptionally precious, as if he was stupid. Enough now. If you want to drink wine, just wait for that little girl to come out and you can go exchange with her. With interest, Ancestor Yu Chan watched Lu Muyen come out of the smithing pagoda, turn, then walk into the taming pagoda. Chapter 399. Extraordinary talent. The attention of the several elders and Ao Rong also turned to Lu Muyen, who started to comprehend after entering the taming pagoda. This, the elder of the taming pagoda asked in extreme surprise, is this girl also a spirit beast master? Of course she's not only a spirit beast master, but her level isn't low either. Ao Rong raised his chin proudly. The weakest of her spirit pets are still initial phase tier 8 cultivation base, and she even raised and contracted a scarlet bee empress. Lu Muyen didn't want to expose the scarlet bee empress at first, but when Qi Huang ran out onto the battle platform that day itself, it still attracted the attention of Ao Rong and the others. However, apart from being shocked, they didn't have any thoughts of coveting it. Even the headmaster of the Tamers school was also only a little envious. Although the 8 extreme sect was at the bottom of the 6 major sects, and there would often be conflicts between pupils, but relatively speaking, the sect still had a rather positive atmosphere. Killing people and stealing treasures rarely occurred, and they were very united in the face of other opponents. What, Scarlet Bee Empress? The elder of the taming pagoda exclaimed and stood up. Only them, spirit beast masters, knew the value of the Scarlet Bee Empress. Where did she find the Scarlet Bee Empress? The Scarlet Bee Empress isn't so easy to contract. Even a tier 6 spiritual beast master can't contract a Scarlet Bee Empress. How'd she do it? Ao Rong remembered that Lu Muyen had attracted a large group of scarlet bees in the competition space, then said with a smile, she found it in the Tianling Continental Tournament for Hegemony competition space. At the time, she even attracted a large swarm of scarlet bees to attack her. In the end, an array was activated to block them all outside. She contracted with a newly born Scarlet Bee Empress? Ancestor Yu Chan gently rubbed the wine cup with his fingers. Should be. She released the Empress during the battle with Yin Hong. I think it's only at its infancy. Ao Rong nodded. No wonder she could use century-old scarlet bee honey to make spiritual wine. If the Scarlet Bee Empress grows up, she wouldn't be short of honey. Ancestor Yu Chan chuckled, looking at Lu Muyen with more admiration in his heart. It's good to contract a Scarlet Bee Empress. We can also go in exchange for some honey wine. The elder of the Array Pagoda said with a smile. Who knew that our sect picked up such a treasure this time? Ancestor Yu Chan's lips melted into an arc. This little girl's talent sure was amazing. Even compared to that ancestor that once ascended, she wasn't outmatched. The sect lacked such a genius right now. If she could also comprehend the taming pagoda to the 7th floor, then he was bound to go and alarm the elder ancestor. When Lu Muyen was comprehending in the taming pagoda, She didn't expect that she would attract the ancestor of the 8 Extremes sect. She learnt the ancient contract skill, so she actually didn't know much about the contracting method of a spirit beast master, and so she comprehended slower this time. It took more than 10 days to comprehend to the 5th floor, but although she took a while, the harvest was huge. The introduction in the Taming Pagoda basically covered all the demonic beasts on this continent, and their characteristics. Many rare and special demonic beast species also had separate contract methods. There was also the breeding method of the Scarlet Bee Empress in the Taming Pagoda, which was not only more detailed than the secret classic given by Yi Ching Han, but also described many secret breeding methods. Each time she watched the projections that appeared again and again, she was like a sponge that madly absorbed and comprehended those secret classics on taming beasts and didn't realize that it was almost 2 months. When she walked out of the 6th floor and teleported to the 7th floor, it was only 3 days away from 2 months. Heavens! This little girl isn't a human at all. The elder of the Alchemy Pagoda couldn't help but sigh when he saw that Lu Muyen had actually stepped into the 7th floor of the Taming Pagoda. Ao Rong glared at him. "You're not human, this little girl is called having heaven-defying talent. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site." "Thanks, I think she's more a little devil," the elder of the Talisman Pagoda murmured. Although they were completely numb to Lu Muyan's talent, but a person who's able to comprehend to the 7th level on all 5 specialization pagodas hadn't appeared in the sect at all. She was definitely the first. This Lu girl is indeed devilishly talented. Ao Rong actually also felt that Lu Muyen wasn't an ordinary person. It was very difficult for others to learn a single specialization until its essence. Not only did she know all 5 specializations but could also perceive it to this level. Neither he nor the elders dared to imagine the sensation it would cause when Lu Muyen became a grade 7 talisman master, a grade 7 alchemist, a grade 7 array master, a grade 7 smith and a grade 7 spirit beast master. Ancestor Yu Chan had an obscure look and swept the people present with eyes of warning. His tone had a rare sharpness to it. Lu Muyen being able to comprehend to the 7th floor of all 5 specialization pagodas of enlightenment is not allowed to be spread. The several people were shocked by the pressure of Ancestor Yu Chan and immediately said respectfully, "We will follow your orders." "Ancestor, it's our sect's fortune that Lu Muyen has such talent, why not spread it?" After a while, the elder of the Array Pagoda couldn't help asking. Ancestor Yu Chan sat calm and still like an old monk, and the invisible pressure made the elders extremely intimidated. After a moment of silence, he said, "If the other 5 sects and other top forces on the continent knew about Lu Muyan's heaven-defying talent, this old man is afraid that scheming people will start planning assassinations to stifle her in the cradle of growth. The sect finally has a rising new star. This old man will definitely not allow her to be lost because of the exposure of her talent." Ao Rong and the several elders were stunned for a while, and they also reflected the worries of the ancestor. This kind of thing had also happened to the other sects. Carefulness can help the ship sail for 10,000 years. Now really wasn't the time to publicize it. We will take ancestors' concerns seriously. I heard that Qi Xiu, the #1 person of the inner sect of Heavenly Secret Palace, had also suffered countless assassination attempts and sneak attacks after he revealed his heaven-defying talent. Ao Rong sighed and restrained his previous joy. Fortune lie in misfortune and misfortune depends on fortune. Having heaven-defying talent wasn't only creation's gift, but it could also bring her the calamity of death. Qi Xiu? Is he the genius who won the championship in all competitions of the last 6 major sects grand competition? Ancestor Yu Chan had also heard of Qi Xiu. Indeed. He not only won first place in the 5 specializations, but he was also the strongest among the 6 major sects' inner pupils of that session. Ao Rong mentioned Qi Xiu with admiration. "I wonder who's better, Lu girl or him? Should be the same in talent." Ancestor Yu Chan said. "As long as we give Lu girl room to grow, I think she will never be worse than Heavenly Secret Palace's Qi Xiu." Ao Rong still had this confidence. Ancestor Yu Chan nodded. With the heaven-defying talent Lu girl revealed, the sect will naturally raise her vigorously. 3 days later, Lu Muyen, who was still comprehending in the Taming Pagoda, suddenly heard the mechanical sound coming from the pagoda. 2 months have arrived. She opened her eyes in contemplation, looked at the end of the darkness ahead of her, and sighed. Just a little bit more. Ancestor Yu Chan and the others naturally knew that the time was up, but Lu Muyen still had a short way to go. "Ancestor, do you think you can give her a few more days?" Ao Rong asked anxiously to Ancestor Yu Chan, seeing that the journey was very short. Ancestor Yu Chan pondered for a moment, then sent a ball of light with bountiful elemental energy from his sleeve, and the ball of light instantly penetrated through the stone house into the taming pagoda. Forget it, give her another 5 days. It can also be regarded as a blessing from this old man. Chapter 400. Ancestors are used for extorting. Just as Lu Muyen was waiting to be teleported out with regret, the mechanical voice sounded again. Activated for 5 days. After 5 days, no matter whether you pass or not, the taming pagoda will teleport you out. Lu Muyen's eyes lit up. It seemed that someone helped her. She didn't waste time thinking about it either, and immediately embarked on the final dark path. 5 days later, when Lu Muyen came to the end and was enveloped by the dazzling white light, the activation time had just come to an end and she was teleported out of the taming pagoda. Actually just enough, this girl sure can count the time. Ao Rong was overjoyed when he saw that Lu Muyen had finally finished the 7th floor of the taming pagoda. Elder Yu Chan also had a smile on his face. Call her over for me to see. Yes. Ao Rong replied, then strode out of the stone house and walked towards Lu Muyen. At the same time, on a floating island in the inner sect, a proud and aloof man stood with his back facing 2 intersect pupils. You mean that among the people who entered the pagodas of enlightenment, there is still one person who hasn't come out yet? His voice was cold and chill. Yes. This time, the pagodas of enlightenment have only been opened for 2 months and it has now been more than 5 days since. For some reason that person hasn't come out yet. The inner sect pupil said respectfully. What's her name? The man standing with his back towards them said. Her name is Lu Muyen, a pupil brought back by Elder Ao Rong from the Tianling Continental Tournament for Hegemony. One person replied. Lu Muyen. The man whispered, then after a while, he instructed, bring me a copy of all her files and information. Yes. Such questions appeared on 4 other floating islands at the same time, and the pupils in the sect who participated in the pagodas of enlightenment were all kept informed of Lu Muyen's news. Di Shi Tian comprehended in the secret area for a month and 10 days, attracting the attention of many strong pupils of the inner sect. Now that Lu Muyen hadn't come out for not only 2 months, but also an extra 5 days, it made many people very confused. Inside the secret area of the pagodas of enlightenment, Ao Rong brought Lu Muyen to the stone house and immediately reminded, this is Ancestor Yu Chan from our 8 Extremes sect. When Lu Muyen entered the door, she found that the man who sat on the main seat revealed a dignified temperament and a youthful face. The man appeared only around 30 years old, but he carried a feeling of having experienced the vicissitudes of life. The aura exuded from the man was the strongest among the people she had ever seen. Lu Muyen pays respects to Ancestor Yu Chan. Lu Muyen respectfully greeted to Ancestor Yu Chan. Although Ancestor Yu Chan used an aura-straining skill, but she dared to conclude that this person was definitely a sword deity powerhouse. No need. Ancestor Yu Chan had a gentle expression and said with a light smile, little girl, you've comprehended until the 7th floor of all 5 pagodas of enlightenment? Yes. You're very good. Ancestor Yu Chan's voice came out slowly with a bit of ethereal spirit. Lu Muyen's expression didn't change and she accepted this compliment humbly. Thank Ancestor for your praise. Ancestor Yu Chan's eyes gleamed with interest. This little girl wasn't very old, but she had a very mature way of doing things. In particular, this disposition of neither honor nor disgrace made him like and appreciate her a little more. In fact, there was no shortage of talents in this world, but talent alone may not be able to go far. A firm belief and a temperament that was neither arrogant nor impetuous was also key. And the little girl in front of him gave him a feeling that this woman was extraordinary. She would definitely become a strong one in the future. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks, I have ordered them not to publicize the matter of you comprehending until the 7th floor of all 5 pagodas of enlightenment. When you return you should also not speak of it. Ancestor Yu Chan said with a meaningful smile, and there was also a hint of testing her. Lu Muyen nodded with a smile. Thank you Ancestor. I also don't want to publicize this. She understood the kindness of Ancestor Yu Chan. If the news that she comprehended until the 7th floor of all 5 pagodas of enlightenment spread, it would definitely be unfavorable to her, and there may even be some people who didn't want her to participate in the grand competition of the 6 major sects. Haha, you really are an understanding person. You have such a bearing at such a young age, you will definitely be extraordinary in the future. Ancestor Yu Chan liked Lu Muyen even more upon seeing the wisdom she displayed. This girl understood immediately she was a good seedling. Most importantly, such a composed and indifferent attitude was really rare. If it were another talented pupil, they would probably have already gone to spread the news even without others doing it. Lu Muyen smiled and didn't answer. In fact, she always liked to be low profile, but many times things would backfire and she had to act in a high-profile manner. If people who knew Lu Muyen knew what she was thinking now, they would probably be twitching the corners of their lips and look up into the sky speechlessly. If she was at all related to the word low profile, then there weren't any low-profile people in this world anymore. Are you also a spiritual wine master? Ancestor Yu-chan asked with a kind smile. Lu Muyen actually smelled the spiritual wine she had brewed as soon as she entered the stone house. Although it had been a while, but it couldn't escape her currently very sensitive sense of smell. I just advanced to a grade 5 spiritual wine master. Lu Muyen answered truthfully. After she came to the sect, she spent most of her time either completing missions or refining talismans, so she didn't improve much in brewing wine. Ao Rong and the several elders all gasped when they heard her answers. This girl was simply heaven-defying. Spiritual wine masters were different to those who focused in the 5 specializations. The premise was that they not only had to know alchemy, but they also had to have the talent to brew wine and have wine recipes to be able to advance. The cost was no less than that for alchemy and smithing. Most importantly, there were very few spiritual wine masters on the entire Tianling continent, and high-grade ones were even rarer. Any grade 5 spiritual wine master who stepped out would definitely become the object that all major forces vie for. And how old was she only? If those enshrined grade 4 or 5 spiritual wine masters of the Stream Reflection restaurant knew her existence, then wouldn't they be ashamed to death? Is there still room for improvement? Ancestor Yu-chan tapped the armrest with his finger, revealing that he wasn't calm at this time. Spiritual wine master was the most difficult profession to advance in among all specializations and was also the profession that was most popular among sword masters. They were even more respected than high-level alchemists. He didn't expect that this little girl had already reached grade 5. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't surprised. Now he not only regarded Lu Muyen as a treasure, but he even felt better about Ao Rong. But I don't have any high-level spiritual herbs or spiritual fruits on me to improve. Lu Muyen blinked and sighed. Seeing her pitiful appearance, Ao Rong's eyelids couldn't help but twitch wildly. This damn girl sure was bold. She even actually wanted to extort from the sect's ancestor. Did she want to be so stimulating? He was old now, his heart wasn't as healthy anymore. The other elders naturally heard the hidden meaning in her words. I don't have the high-level spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits to improve. How about ancestor give me some? The several people couldn't help but shudder. This little girl sure was bold. If it were another pupil, they would definitely point to the sky and swear that they would work hard to improve. How would it be possible for them to mention spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits? But the moment she heard ancestor ask, she wanted to extort. This was definitely not something they mortals could understand. Haha, Ancestor Yu-chan laughed heartily with a bit of sharpness in his eyes. Little girl, you sure are bold. How did I provoke ancestor? Lu Muyen looked at Ao Rong innocently and asked, blinking. How could these old fellows want to drink spiritual wine without bleeding a little? So what if he's an ancestor? Ancestors represented power and wealth. So what were ancestors used for? Of course they were for extorting. Chapter 401. Foresight. Ao Rong heard Lu Muyen's question, then saw her wink at him and almost vomited blood. Could he pretend to faint right now? How could you have offended ancestor? Ao Rong said with a fake smile. Ancestor can't even begin to like you enough. How could he blame you? He really didn't expect this damn girl to be so bold and wanted to even extort Ancestor Yu-chan, and even drag him into it. Little Lu girl, do you want high-level spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits from me? Ancestor Yu-chan looked at her in amusement and asked. It was the first time in so many years that he had met such a bold pupil within the sect. He thought it was very interesting. No. How dare I ask Ancestor for something? Lu Muyen smiled sweetly. Then the thread of discussion changed and she said regretfully, I originally wanted to brew some more high-level spiritual wine to honor Ancestor, but it's a pity that even a clever wife wouldn't be able to cook without rice, so I have to wait until I find some high-level spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits to brew it. Ao Rong and the several elders twitched the corners of their lips. This move of advancing by retreating sure was well played. Alright, you can stop acting in front of me. If you want some high-level spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits, just write it down and this old man will find it for you. Ancestor Yu-chan looked at her with a half-smile and said, but this old man wants to drink the spiritual wine brewed from millennium-old royal jelly. I believe you can do it right, little girl? Ao Rong and the several elders just knew that Ancestor Yu-chan wasn't so easy to fool. but he sure could open his mouth to ask for millennium-old royal jelly. However, the several people also watched the conversation between the two with great interest. The calculative fight between a little fox and a smiling tiger sure was entertaining. Lu Muyen blinked, then smiled innocently. How dare I deceive Ancestor? No problem, in order to honor Ancestor, I will definitely obtain millennium-old royal jelly. She didn't hide the purpose of extorting Ancestor Yu-chan. The more scheming she was in front of these old fellows, it would actually cause more disgust, so she understood when was enough and expressed her thoughts so far. All right. This old man will wait for your honey wine. Ancestor Yu-chan smiled merrily, then immediately curbed his smile and said seriously, but for now, don't waste your energy on these things and just prepare well for the 6 major sects grand competition. Pupil obeys. Lu Muyen replied. Then she used her mental energy to print a list of spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits on a jade slip and handed it to Ancestor Yu-chan. Do you still have any blood sac wine and honey wine on you? Ancestor Yu-chan asked. Lu Muyen consciously took out more than 10 jugs of spiritual wine from her interspatial ring and said, I brewed this wine a while back. If Ancestor likes it, then please take it to drink. Ancestor Yu-chan liked this kind of clever and understanding pupil. He put away the spiritual wine in front of him, then with a flick of his finger, he gifted a peak-quality Saint Treasure to Lu Muyen. This Saint Treasure can be considered a meeting gift to you, you can take it. Lu Muyen grabbed the stream of light in front of her, then put it away without being formal. Thank Ancestor for your reward. It would be a waste not to take it, and what Ancestor Yu-chan gifted was a defense-type Saint Treasure armor, which was still rather useful and precious to her right now. Use the next month to improve your strength. Ancestor Yu-chan smiled, and his figure gradually faded and disappeared in the stone house. Lu Muyen's eyes were filled with surprise. The person just now was actually a clone. He sure deserved to be a sword deity-level powerhouse. The secret method used was so flawless. You damn girl want to scare people to death. Ao Rong glared at Lu Muyen angrily after Ancestor Yu-chan left. To even extort the smiling tiger Ancestor Yu-chan, you're so bold. Even if I want to extort you, do you have spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits for me? Lu Muyen teased. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. Ao Rong chalked. He was a smith, so he naturally didn't have many spiritual herbs or spiritual fruits. None. Then that's that. Isn't an ancestor used for extorting? Who else could he blame when he's rolling in money? Any crack in his finger will leak a treasure. Lu Muyen smiled mischievously. That's true as expected, little girl, you have foresight. Ao Rong nodded in agreement. Should he also learn from this damn girl to extort when he meets those people in the future? The elders of the 5 pagodas twitched the corners of their lips with fine sweat on their foreheads. Was it really alright for these 2 people to say such outrageous words in front of them? Why did they also think it made sense though? Little Lu girl, I'm the guardian elder of the Alchemy Pagoda. The elder of the Alchemy Pagoda leaned in front of Lu Muyen with a smile and asked, how about you exchange some blood sac wine and honey wine with me? Lu Muyen knew that these old fellows were also very rich, so since they sent themselves to her door, then she supposes she could extort them. Either way, there were still a lot of spiritual wine she brewed, and the resources used were all self-produced and sold, so it basically didn't cost much spiritual stones. Sure. But I wonder what elders will use to exchange? How about a grade 4 pill? The elder of the Alchemy Pagoda asked. A grade 4 pill still had great use to Lu Muyen, so he believed she would probably agree. Lu Muyen laughed dryly and said, Elder, I also have grade 4 pills, how about turning them into spiritual stones? You lack spiritual stones? Ao Rong remembered that last time, this damn girl only just sold more than 100,000 spiritual stones worth of pills and magic tools, but now she's screaming poor. Lu Muyen nodded, I lack everything, especially spiritual stones and contribution points. I lack the most. The several elders held their foreheads, secretly thinking that this girl and Ao Rong sure were the same type of people, both liking to take advantage of what's given to them. The sect's contribution points can't be given to you from us, so let's exchange with spiritual stones. In the sect, not only did the pupils need to spend contribution points to cultivate, but the elders also needed to spend contribution points, but they were different, so they couldn't be transferred onto each other's identity jade tablets. Lu Muyen also wasn't polite and accepted the spiritual stones from them, then took out quite a bit of spiritual wine to exchange. She now terribly lacked spiritual stones. In the Taming Pagoda, she saw a record in a secret classic that if she wanted to quickly cultivate a swarm of scarlet bees, then using spiritual stones to raise them was the best. After exchanging with the several elders, Ao Rong sent Lu Muyen out from the secret area and had the cheek to want a lot of spiritual wine from her. But when they parted, Ao Rong stuffed her with 5 small different-colored balls sealed by elemental energy. This is the Pagodas of Enlightenment's Pagoda Spirit's Force. You can take it back to refine it and it would be of great benefit to you. Lu Muyen also vaguely guessed the wondrous effect of the Pagoda Spirit's Force, so she said with some gratitude, "Thank you Elder Ao for your trouble." Although she was dug over by Ao Rong to the 8 Extremes sect, but she was willing, so he didn't owe her anything. However, he still took really good care of her and protected her, so she remembered this favor in her heart. "Why are you so polite to me, girl?" Ao Rong said with a smile. "Just give me a few more jugs of spiritual wine that you brew in the future." "All right." Afterwards, Ao Rong teleported Lu Muyen to the outside of the sect. After wandering around for a day, he brought her back to the sect and also deliberately let many pupils see it. It was told to the public that Lu Muyen had comprehended for a month, then followed Elder Ao Rong out to do a mission. This was in fact also done for the spies hidden in the sect. There were still a small number of people who didn't believe this statement, and Di Shirtian was one of them. Chapter 402, Heavy Water News. After Lu Muyen returned to the inner courtyard, she was arranged by a supervisor to choose an independent courtyard. After she picked up Bing Ji and the other spirit pets, she arranged a grade 5 attack and defense array around the courtyard. "How was your comprehension?" Mo Yen asked lazily, jumping onto a piece of soft beast skin. Lu Muyen took out the 5 pagoda spirits force to play with. "I've comprehended to the 7th floor of the 5 pagodas, but for the 8th and 9th floors, I need to go to Guangling World to have the opportunity to comprehend. I'm not that familiar with the human realm, and don't know where the pagodas of enlightenment are." Mo Yen thought for a while and said, "I think you've received a lot of benefits to have comprehended to the 7th floor, right?" I've gained a lot. I should be considered an expert of sorts in all 5 specializations now." Lu Muyen nodded, then she looked at Bing Ji who was preening his feathers and said, "You've broken through?" If Bing Ji could break through to Tier 9, then she would be a bit more confident when they go to participate in the taming competition of the 6 major sects grand competition. "I can already feel the bottleneck and I think I should be able to break through it within 10 days. Bing Ji raised his head, a little tsundra. Lu Muyen rolled her eyes. "How slow? Mo Yan's already at Tier 9, you haven't even broken through yet." "What? Boss Mo's already broken through to Tier 9? When did that happen?" Bing Ji asked in surprise, sticking his beak out of his features. Meow Meow and Shui looked at Mo Yen with confusion. Why didn't they know that Boss Missouri had advanced? "Boss Missouri, don't tell us that when you went out for 3 days last month, you went to hide to advance?" Bing Ji suddenly remembered that Mo Yen went out for a few days last month. Mo Yen glanced at him casually, then spit out 2 words, "Of course." "Then why can't we feel the pressure of a Tier 9? Meow Meow asked. Whether it was a Tier 9 demonic beast or a Sword Saint cultivation base sword master, even if they retrained their aura, people could still judge that their cultivation base was very high. But Mo Yan's aura was only just like a Tier 7. Mo Yan's a demon king of a portion of the demon realm, so he naturally knows the aura restraining skill. It's normal for you lot to not feel it. Lu Muyen said, leaning her chin on her hand. Each time Mo Yen made a breakthrough, he always quietly left for a period of time to advance before returning, and was very mysterious. Mighty Boss Missouri. Bing Ji felt bitter inwardly. He wanted to advance quickly but his mouth just flattered. "Embarrassing." Meow Meow said contemptuously. Shui Shui had a look as if to say he didn't know him. Sycophant. "Alright now you should all hurry up to improve your strength for now. Next month's Sex Grand Competition, I still want to count on you all to win the championship of the taming competition." Lu Muyen was very interested in obtaining the championship of the 5 specializations. It wasn't because she wanted to be high profile, but the champion could obtain an abundance of rewards. If the superiors of the sect knew that her purpose for having her spirit beasts quickly advance to obtain the championship was for the rewards, would they vomit blood? In order to improve the strength of her several demonic beasts, and also to practice her alchemy skills, she spent several days refining several batches of grade 5 pills. 5 days later she exited her courtyard. Unlike the independent courtyard in the outer sect, the spiritual energy here was more than twice as abundant as the outer courtyards. There were courtyards at intervals around hers, either the courtyards of newly promoted inner pupils or the courtyards of old inner pupils. There was also another difference between the inner sect and the outer sect. When entering the outer sect there would be a brief introduction of the sect through a jade slip, and she at least knew what places were for what, but after entering the inner sect there was nothing, so she could only explore by herself. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. She thought about visiting Zi Cheisher's courtyard in order to inquire about news. When Lu Muyen arrived, Zi Cheisher was drinking wine and exchanging cultivation experience with Di Shi Tian and Yin Hong. Junior sister Lu, why are you here? As soon as Zi Cheisher received Lu Muyan's communication talisman, he quickly opened the array in the courtyard to let her in. Lu Muyen walked into the courtyard and saw two people sitting in a pavilion not far away. She smiled lightly and said, I originally wanted to ask senior brother about the inner sect, but if it's inconvenient for senior brother, I can come back another day. What's inconvenient? It just so happens that Di Shi Tian and Yin Hong are also here. They're more familiar with the inner sect than me. Let's have a cup of tea together. Zi Cheisher invited with a smile. When they were chatting just now, they mentioned the situation of Lu Muyen having comprehended in the pagodas of enlightenment for more than 2 months, and was also curious about to which degree she had comprehended. Sure. Then excuse me. Hello senior brother D, senior brother Yin. Lu Muyen walked into the pavilion, found an empty seat, sat down and greeted the two with a smile. Yin Hong said with a smile, Junior sister Lu sure is a rare visitor. There was also a smile on Di Shi Tian's wild and handsome face. Junior sister Lu, how have you been? Zi Cheisher poured a cup of tea for Lu Muyen and jokingly said, Junior sister, you're famous in the inner sect. What's wrong? Lu Muyen had a guess, but a look of surprise appeared on her face at just the right moment. Many pupils know about the fact that you've been in the secret area's pagodas of enlightenment for more than 2 months. Now, there are people who are specifically investigating you. Di Shi Tian asked with a hint of testing. Lu Muyen shook the teacup and said helplessly, How is it that I've been comprehending in the pagodas of enlightenment for 2 months? I was called by Elder Ao Rong to go do labor. Hearing her say this, the expressions in the eyes of the three were different. It was obvious that she didn't want to say any more, so they didn't inquire any more. No matter what the truth was, it could be seen that Lu Muyen was highly favored by the superiors of the sect. One must know that Elder Ao Rong's position in the sect was actually higher than the sect leader. With such preferential treatment towards Lu Muyen, there were very few people who dared to provoke her in the inner sect. What news does junior sister want to inquire about the inner sect? Zi Cheisher asked. I'm not familiar with the inner sect at all. Is there a place that sells maps or introductions to the sect? Lu Muyen just felt that the situation of the inner sect shouldn't be so secretive. Of course there is. You can use contribution points for exchange it. Yin Hong said. He discovered that this little junior sister was very talented, but she was like a loner in the sect, basically either doing missions outside or staying inside. I have a scroll of a general introduction to the inner sect. If junior sister doesn't dislike it, then you can take it to use. Di Shi Tian handed a jade slip to Lu Muyen. Thank you. Lu Muyen took the jade slip and browsed it. She had a general understanding of the inner sect now. Seeing her put the jade slip down, Zi Cheisher asked, Does junior sister want to go somewhere? I want to go to the sect's contribution points management office to exchange something. Do you have a brief introduction of the exchanges? The purpose of her coming out today was to exchange for heavy water, then refine a water attribute natal magic tool. I don't. The inner sect's contribution points manual can only be found at the management office and can't be carried privately. Di Shi Tian thought about it, then asked, Does junior sister want to exchange something? I'm fairly familiar with the contribution points manual items. Then does senior brother D know whether there's heavy water for exchange on the contribution points manual? Heavy water? Di Shi Tian was surprised, then after a moment of silence said, I remember that there's indeed heavy water that can be exchanged in the contribution points manual, but the value is extremely high, so it hasn't been exchanged for in very long. Lu Muyen's heart dropped and asked, furrowing her brows, How much sect contribution points does it take to exchange heavy water? Chapter 403, Elemental Underground Palaces. Di Shi Tian and the others all knew the value of heavy water, but they didn't expect Lu Muyen to be interested in it. Seeing her appearance, she should want to exchange for it with contribution points. 200,000 contribution points. Di Shi Tian stretched out 2 fingers and gestured. Lu Muyen's lips twitched. She originally guessed that heavy water was very valuable and would require a lot of contribution points, but she didn't expect that the 100,000 contribution points she obtained from killing Shin Mu Feng wasn't even enough. It seemed that the sect was very against completing wanted missions. It actually costs 200,000, isn't that a rip-off? Lu Muyen sighed. Junior sister, heavy water is one of the excellent auxiliary materials for refining water attribute magic tools, and it also requires a high-level sword master to have comprehended the water attribute element to perfection realm, so it's naturally expensive. Zicheshire said with amusement. There's not one of the top-ranked spiritual items in the contribution points handbook that's not expensive. 200,000 for heavy water isn't actually even in the top 50. Dishir Tian added. Lu Muyen looked down at the tea that had cleared, then asked after a while, how can I earn sect contribution points faster? Completing missions? Junior sister, next month will be the grand competition of the 6 major sects. You should focus more on your cultivation for now. Zicheshire couldn't help reminding. Lu Muyen shrugged, her tone rather helpless. I also want to focus more on my cultivation, but heavy water is also very important to me, and it's also a means of preparation for me to participate in the 6 major sects grand competition. Most pupils who accumulate contribution points in the inner sect will choose to do missions, but that takes a long time. I don't think you'd be able to earn another 100,000 contribution points in a month. Lu Muyen's contribution points of more than 100,000 could rank first in the outer sect contribution points ranking, which they all knew. Is there any shortcut to earn 100,000 contribution points in a month? Lu Muyen asked with some vexation. If she could refine that water attribute natal magic tool, then she would be able to trigger a very powerful sword array during the actual competition. The 3 of them couldn't help rolling their eyes inwardly when they heard her question. They also wanted to know the shortcut to earn 100,000 contribution points in 1 month. How can contribution points be that easy to earn? Yin Hong said without a good attitude, instead of using contribution points you have to exchange for heavy water, it's better to go to the elemental underground palaces to cultivate and improve your strength as soon as possible. Elemental underground palaces? Lu Muyen expressed that she didn't know this place. The 3 were completely speechless. This woman didn't even know the elemental underground palace. Just how did she enter the inner sect? The elemental underground palaces are very powerful cultivation places in the inner sect. Each underground palace represents different elemental attributes. The underground palaces are also divided into several floors. The elements on each floor all have gravity. Entering into it to cultivate will stimulate the body to comprehend the elemental attribute, and cultivating in it will double the result with half the effort. Dishir Tian replied. Based on what you said, then the elemental underground palaces in the inner sect are a good place. Lu Muyen took a sip of tea, her eyes filled with interest. That's natural. The most famous of the 8 extreme sect is actually the elemental underground palaces. Many inner sect pupils crazily earn contribution points just to enter to cultivate. Yin Hong said. It should cost a lot to enter the elemental underground palaces to cultivate, right? Such a good place must be expensive, she guessed. Of course, but as long as you go in and cultivate, you'll find that no matter how much contribution points you spend, it's worth it. Dishir Tian paused, then said, the elemental underground palaces have 10 chambers. Each chamber's price is different. The first chamber is the cheapest, but it also requires 200 contribution points per day, and the contribution points in the next chamber increases by folds. So high. Then wouldn't the 10th chamber cost more than 100,000 contribution points a day? Lu Muyen's expression couldn't help but change. This was more expensive than the floating islands. Yin Hong said with a smile, the 10th chamber does cost more than 100,000 contribution points, but none of the pupils of the entire sect has yet stepped into the 8th chamber of the elemental underground palaces. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. Hearing him say that, Lu Muyen fell into thought, then asked after a while, are there other ways to earn contribution points in the sect besides taking missions? No matter what, she had to refine the water attribute natal magic tool before going to the grand competition of the 6 major sects. In addition to completing missions, I do indeed know a quick way of earning contribution points. Dishir Tian pondered, then raised his eyes. Lu Muyen's eyes lit up and asked, what method? Use high-level things to exchange for contribution points in the contribution points management office, such as pills, talismans, arrays and magic tools grade 4 or above. High-level spiritual items of heaven and earth are fine too. Dishir Tian said. Zicheshire and Yin Hong also knew about this, but the pupils usually exchanged contribution points for these things. Under normal circumstances, few people would use this method to earn contribution points. The sect sure can do business. Lu Muyen chuckled. This method was feasible. Are there any other methods? Can the pupils exchange contribution points with each other? Seeing her eyes filled with interest, the eyelids of the three twitched. Inner sect pupils can exchange contribution points with each other. Yin Hong thought for a moment, then replied, there's also another way to quickly obtain contribution points, and that's to challenge in the challenge field. You can bet and also challenge. Those that have a winning streak can win the challenge field's rewards and contribution points. Challenge field? The sect has such a place? Lu Muyen asked with great interest. The challenge field was established by the pupils in the sect. The place is very bloody, but it's also filled with huge profits. Some pupils could become rich overnight, while some pupils also lose everything. Di Tian said. The pupils of the inner sect can also set up such a place to get contribution points? Lu Muyen asked in surprise. Junior sister may not know that the inner sect is different from the outer sect. The top 10 pupils in the inner sect will basically establish their own force, and the new pupils will find a party to join. The sect doesn't oppose such a thing, instead they are even faintly very supportive of it. Zi Chaisher said. In addition to the challenge field, other pupils also have ways to earn contribution points and spiritual stones. For example, pill shops opened by pupils of the alchemy school. If any pupil wants pills, they can go to the pill shop to exchange them, and the contribution points needed are slightly lower than what the sect exchanges them for. Other schools are also as such. Yin Hong added. Lu Muyen rubbed her chin and thought deeply. The reason that the sect allowed the pupils to establish forces was probably also to use their struggles to improve the strength of the pupils, and to let the pupils in the sect experience the rules and bloodshed of the outside world first. So it turns out that there's such a place in the sect. It really opened my eyes. Lu Muyen said with a smile, thank you, three senior brothers, for letting me know. These things aren't any secret. Junior sister can find out as long as you go out and ask more. Zi Chaisher waved his hand and said, then I won't disturb the three of you any longer. I'll go to the sect contribution points management office for a look. Lu Muyen got up and bid farewell. Junior sister can come to us if you need anything in the future. Zi Chaisher also didn't ask her to stay. All right. After Lu Muyen left, Zi Chaisher chuckled. Do you think she went to the sect contribution points management office to exchange things? She should have a lot of grade 4 pills, so she should be going to exchange for contribution points. Di Tian sighed and said, we also lack contribution points. If it weren't that in the next month we need to go to the elemental underground palaces to cultivate, I also want to exchange some pills from junior sister Lu. You can go find your big brother if you lack contribution points. Yin Hong raised an eyebrow and said with a smile. Di Tian's face darkened and he snorted coldly, humph, as if I'd go looking for him. Seeing that his entire body exuded a fierce and violent aura, Zi Chaisher and Yin Hong were both startled. It seemed that the relationship between the two brothers weren't good. First time I updated late because I genuinely just forgot, haha. Anyways, here it is. Chapter 404. I just don't know how to take a hint. Lu Muyen flew on her sword to the sect's contribution points management office and went to the place where contribution points were exchanged. There were basically no pupils in the hall where one exchanged for contribution points, which was in great contrast to the lively scene of the nearby hall where the contribution points were being used to exchange for things. You want to exchange for contribution points? A supervisor in the hall asked. Lu Muyen nodded. Is there a breakdown of the contribution points exchange here? The supervisor took out a jade slip and handed it to her with a nonchalant attitude. Here's a rough exchange price here. If your item isn't on it, the value will be given by the sect appraiser after appraisal. Lu Muyen inserted her mental energy into the jade slip to check it out. A high-quality grade 4 pill could be used to exchange for 2,000 contribution points, grade 5 could be exchanged for 5,000, and magic tools were similar. She furrowed her brows and thought about how to exchange 100,000 contribution points. If she used grade 4 pills to exchange for it, it would take at least 50 pills. She did have them, but taking out so many pills at once would definitely attract the attention of other people. After thinking about it, she took out 10 grade 4 pills, and 2 Saint treasures collected from Shen Mu Feng's interspatial ring, and placed them on the table. I will trouble supervisor to see how many contribution points these can be exchanged for. The supervisor didn't expect Lu Muyen to take out so many things at once and immediately began to count them. Then, with a smile on his face, he said, the things here can be exchanged for a total of 60,000 contribution points. Do you want to exchange? Yes. Lu Muyen didn't hesitate at all, thought about it, then took out a jar of Millennium Old Royal Jelly and asked, Supervisor, how many contribution points do you think this can be exchanged for? The supervisor opened the jar curiously, and a sweet fragrance emanated from it. His eyes widened, his expression changed, and he said, "This is Scarlet Bee Royal Jelly? I can't judge the value of this. It needs to be appraised by the appraiser of the sect. Please wait a moment." The supervisor got up and walked towards the second floor of the main hall. After a while, the supervisor accompanied an old man who appeared to be portly back downstairs. "This is Old Yi 1, the appraiser of the sect contribution points management office." The supervisor introduced to Lu Muyen. Lu Muyen smiled politely and said, "Hello, Old Yi. I heard that you, little girl, took a jar of Scarlet Bee Royal Jelly in to exchange for contribution points?" Old Yi smiled kindly. Old Yi, please appraise it." Lu Muyen pushed the royal jelly towards him. Old Yi picked up the jar with great interest, and the expression in his eyes changed as soon as he opened it. He sniffed it in shock, then took a drop and tasted it. "It's actually millennium-old royal jelly. Old Yi has good eyesight." Lu Muyen praised with a smile. "Do you, little girl, know the value of royal jelly? Taking out such a jar like this could cause countless powerhouses to fight for it." Old Yi said meaningfully. Just based on what he said, Lu Muyen had a little more affection for this Old Yi. "I know the value of millennium-old royal jelly, but I urgently need contribution points to exchange for something, so I can only give up my love for it." Lu Muyen revealed a bitter smile and sighed. "I wonder how many contribution points can be exchanged for this jar of millennium-old royal jelly?" Old Yi understood to stop reminding, so he weighed the millennium-old royal jelly in the jar with his hands, then said cautiously, "Millennium-old Scarlet Bee Royal Jelly is exceptionally rare and has a wide range of uses. Yours is around 500 grams. This old one won't cheat you either. How about using 100,000 sect contribution points to exchange for it?" Lu Muyen was slightly surprised inwardly. It seemed that she still underestimated the value of millennium-old royal jelly. But then she couldn't help but sigh that Shen Mufeng's life sure was cheap. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks, she thought wickedly, that if that arrogant holy son of the devil race knew that the life of his avatar projection was only worth a jar of millennium-old royal jelly, would be vomit blood in anger. "All right. I'll exchange." Old Yi asked the supervisor to give Lu Muyen the contribution points, then smiled and hurriedly left the hall with the millennium-old royal jelly. That's how Old Yi acts when he obtains something he likes. Seeing that Old Yi was like a child, hugging the thing and running away, the supervisor smiled awkwardly. Lu Muyen didn't mind and said, "Old Yi is just being true to himself." After greeting the supervisor, Lu Muyen turned around and entered the hall adjacent. This hall was very lively with people coming and going, and when she walked in she was greeted by a few obscure glances, which she didn't bother paying attention to. "You want to exchange for something?" the supervisor asked, looking up at her lightly. Lu Muyen nodded and said straightforwardly, "I want to exchange for the heavy water." Hearing her words, the originally indifferent supervisor suddenly looked at her again, furrowed his brows and said, "It takes 200,000 contribution points to exchange for heavy water, do you know?" "I know, you can just swipe it." Lu Muyen handed over the identity jade tablet. All the contribution points used in the inner sect were drawn from it. The supervisor was stunned for a while, apparently not expecting that a newly promoted inner pupil would actually have enough contribution points to exchange for heavy water. He took the jade tablet over and checked it, then said after a bit, "Are you sure you want to use 200,000 sect contribution points to exchange for heavy water?" Lu Muyen furrowed her brows and her voice was a little cold. "Why can't I exchange for it?" This supervisor was delaying. It made her feel that something was wrong. "Then can I ask what you're going to do with the heavy water?" The supervisor continued to ask, ignoring the cold look on her face. Lu Muyen sneered, "No comment. To tell you the truth, there's only one last piece of heavy water left in the sect, but one of the pupils has already reserved it in advance, so how about you look around and see if there's anything else you want to exchange?" The supervisor said indifferently. "Why haven't I heard that exchanging things can be reserved in advance?" "Then may I ask, supervisor, did that person use contribution points to exchange for it already?" Lu Muyen asked coldly. Because of some reasons his contribution points is still not enough, so he already went to collect more. The supervisor was a little annoyed when he saw that she didn't listen and said with a threatening tone, "You just entered the sect and don't know some rules. I advise you to stop before going over the limits." "Stop before going over the limits? Why should I stop?" Lu Muyen said with ridicule, "Since the heavy water hasn't been exchanged, then I have every right to exchange for it." Are you trying to use your power for personal gain? The supervisor's expression darkened, but he didn't know how to reprimand her because he was indeed using this matter for personal gain. That person isn't someone you can afford to offend, so it's better for you to know when to take a hint in the inner sect. You know about me, I know everything and anything, but I just won't know to take a hint. Lu Muyen hated when others threatened her the most in her life. Today's matter definitely wouldn't be over just like this. Don't refuse to take a toast only to drink a forfeit. The supervisor had never met such a stubborn and arrogant pupil in the sex contribution points hall like her and said in a low voice with an angry expression. Lu Muyan's lips hooked into the faintest arc, and she suddenly raised her voice and said, "What do you mean by refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit? Don't think that just because you're a supervisor of the sex contribution points management office, that you can have everything in your hands. I request to see the managing elder of the sect contribution points hall." Her loud voice indeed caused the people around to cast curious and surprised gazes towards her, and many pupils who were about to leave also stopped to watch the show. So I don't know if people remember, but around 100 chapters ago was the last appearance of an elder who worked for Mingxiu called Elder Yi. Technically in the original Chinese, I accidentally translated it to Elder Yi and it stuck. I don't know how other translators do it, but in this story I've been translating X as Old X and X as Elder X, etc. But whatever, I'll leave it for now until I decide to do a huge edit one day if I do, haha. But anyways, this old Yi, in this chapter uses the exact same character, Yi, as that Elder Yi. I have no idea if that's important or not. XD, but I thought to note it. Random note, why am I imagining Lu Muyen as a Karen asking for the manager? Haha, no disrespect intended to the lovely Karen readers out there if any. But she rightfully can ask for the manager XD. Chapter 405. Beat the supervisors. The supervisor of the sex contribution points management office didn't expect Lu Muyen to make such a loud commotion on purpose, so he quickly hid the panic in his eyes and stood up angrily. Do you think you can see the elder manager of the contribution points management office whenever you want? If you leave now I won't pursue your rudeness for defying me. Lu Muyen folded her arms and sneered, "Why should I leave? I have contribution points on me. What's wrong with exchanging for something that's still in the manual? You fail to acknowledge a favor." The supervisor saw that many people were looking over here, including two supervisors who didn't have a good relationship with him, and he felt a little more urgency. If this was taken to the managing elder, then he definitely wouldn't experience anything good. If you continue to be stubborn, then don't blame me for being impolite. Lu Muyen caught the panic in his eyes, and the mockery on her lips grew even denser. It seemed that no matter where, there would be people who used power for personal gain, but today since they wanted to bully her, then she would naturally not let this go. How are you going to be impolite? Want to fight? Lu Muyen looked at him with a smile that wasn't quite a smile, then cracked her knuckles. "I'll accompany you to the end." The supervisor was completely provoked by her confrontational gaze. His cultivation base was at middle phase sword venerable, and it would be enough to deal with a newly promoted pupil of the inner sect. He also wanted to quickly end this with Lu Muyen and kick her out in case it caught the attention of those above. The pressure of a middle phase sword venerable was released, and the supervisor waved his sleeves. A powerful force of elemental energy swept towards Lu Muyen. You want to be like a dog threatening people on the strength of their master with just this level of power? Lu Muyen raised an eyebrow, dodged the palm wind, and disappeared in place with her flash steps. The supervisor didn't expect Lu Muyen to avoid his palm wind at all. After all, they were an entire stage different to each other. He quickly took out a long sword and looked for Lu Muyen's figure to continue to attack, only to feel that the space around him fluctuated slightly. Before he could even attack, a fist landed on his face, then he was blasted out by a force. Presumptuous. He was shocked, knowing that he had completely underestimated Lu Muyen's strength. He stabilized his feet, unreconciled, concentrated his elemental force and swung the sword in his hand. Earth spikes condensed from sword auras attacked Lu Muyen. Lu Muyen hooked her lips. Now that she had evidence that she was attacked first by this person, she could let free of herself and beat this person up. She didn't use sword auras to block the earth thorns, and instead, used her fastest movement technique to continue to dodge the waves of attacks. After a few of her figures passed in the air, she kicked the supervisor away. Then everyone saw that the supervisor who was originally arrogant was beaten to a pulp by Lu Muyen with her violent fists, and he didn't even have room to fight back. Heavens! Who's that woman? A pupil couldn't resist but feel his scalp grow numb as he watched the unilateral beating not far away. Don't know, but the supervisor of the Contribution Points Management Office has always been domineering. It's really nice to see him being beaten like this right now. A person who had once suffered said with a smile. She's a newly promoted inner pupil. Her power's not that bad. How mighty she even dares to fight the supervisor. She should be the first among the pupils of the sect to dare to beat up a supervisor. Yeah, but who told that supervisor to be so arrogant? When those people come to exchange their contribution points, he's so polite, but the moment us ordinary pupils come, he doesn't give us any face. He deserves it. But this new pupil will also probably be finished too. The crime of assaulting the supervisor of a sect in public isn't a light one. The pupils in the hall were talking and gossiping and watching a good show. Many people admired Lu Muyan's courage, but some also felt that she was too impulsive and didn't recommend it. The other supervisors were stunned when they saw this. It was the first time they had encountered such an arrogant pupil after working in the Contribution Points Management Office for so many years. Although the supervisor who was being beaten usually behaved like he deserved a beating, but it also didn't allow a newly promoted intersect pupil to come to teach him a lesson, so some quickly stepped forward to stop it. Enough, is a supervisor also someone you can beat? Hurry up and stop. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. Lu Muyan raised her head and watched the two supervisors come forward, but she didn't stop what she was doing. He was the one that attacked first. He can hit me, why can't I fight back? Twisting the words to force logic. If you don't stop now, we won't be polite. A supervisor who usually had a good relationship with the person who was being beaten threatened. Lu Muyan sneered, then be impolite. If you want to fight, then fight together. Chirping around like this is so annoying. The supervisor was enraged and instantly joined the battle with another person. With coldness in her eyes, Lu Muyan tossed the supervisor who was half beaten to death aside and immediately greeted the two people. Not long after, everyone heard shrill screams, but beyond everyone's imagination, it wasn't Lu Muyan who yelled, but the two supervisors who besieged her. How tough. The women in our inner sect are all tigresses. This violence is almost comparable to that demoness Jean say. Why is it the more beautiful the more fierce now? What do you know? Such a wild beauty is the taste. Now there's a good show to watch. Beating 3 supervisors in a row, this junior sister sure is really brave. A handsome and suave man walked into the Contribution Points Hall with 3 people, and when they saw the scene in front of them, they were stunned. What's going on? Who's that woman? He asked with interest. A nearby pupil who had been watching for a long time immediately greeted him with a smile. Young Master Qi, just now, this newly promoted intersect pupil and the supervisor quarreled, then they started fighting. Then the man repeated what he had just heard and seen. There's actually a pupil who dares to beat up supervisors. Interesting. Qi Ran smiled and narrowed his peach blossom-shaped eyes. Stop. Suddenly, a mighty voice resounded throughout the hall with an invisible pressure enveloping the area. Lu Muyan stepped a few more times on the 2 people who had been beaten by her on the ground before she stopped. She took out a piece of silk to wipe her hands, the silk turned into powder in her hands. Was the managing elder finally willing to appear? After the voice fell, a serious-looking elderly man suddenly appeared in the hall. What's going on? He asked coldly, sweeping Lu Muyan and the 3 supervisors on the ground with his eyes. Elder, this newly promoted intersect pupil is too arrogant. With just slight disagreement, she beat us 3 up wildly. Cough cough. The supervisor who was first injured by Lu Muyan reversed black and white and said, she wanted to exchange for a spiritual item and I only asked a few questions, but she actually provoked me and severely injured me. The managing elder furrowed his brows and cast his eyes sharply at Lu Muyan. He noticed that she had a face of mockery and asked grimly, is it as he said? Yes and no. Lu Muyan chuckled, it's just self-defense. They attacked me first, I can't just stand here stupidly and let them hit me, right? Then you think it's right for you to beat up the supervisors? The managing elder asked with eyes scorching hot and filled with pressure. Chapter 406. Being bullied? Lu Muyan's expression didn't change, and she wasn't at all deterred by the pressuring aura of the managing elder. Then is it wrong for me to defend myself? Lu Muyan smiled sweetly and asked instead, may I ask, elder, is there anything in the rules of the sect about a supervisor attacking a pupil, but a pupil not being allowed to fight back? Hearing her arrogant question, many of the pupils present couldn't help but suck in a breath. This woman was too arrogant. She actually dared to speak to the managing elder of the Contribution Points Hall like this. Was she too naive and stupid, or did she have something to rely on? None of the newly promoted pupils of the inner sect were fools, so they all believed that this daring and high-spirited woman must have some backing, otherwise she wouldn't dare be so arrogant and bold. Qi Ran's peach blossom-shaped eyes were filled with playfulness, and he had already guessed Lu Muyan's identity. Who is this woman? We should have heard of such an arrogant pupil before. A rough-looking young man asked behind him. Qi Ran raised the corner of his lips and said, "If I guessed correctly, this woman should be Lu Muyan, who was selected into the inner sect as the number one of the outer sect. So it's her." A mature-looking man behind Qi Ran said, "I heard that this woman has a good relationship with Jin Sei, but I didn't expect her to have the same hot temper. Although Jin Sei is arrogant and domineering, but she still wouldn't dare to beat up a supervisor. This junior sister Lu is worthy of being a pupil of Martial Ant Huo, one of the talisman school, filled with arrogance." Jiran smiled. Will she be punished? Laozi also doesn't like those supervisors that Lu Muyan beat up for a long time. The rough man said. Those three supervisors always liked to overtly agree but covertly oppose, were like dogs who threatened others on the strength of its master's power, and abused their powers. Although they didn't dare be too arrogant towards them, but he just didn't feel that they were pleasing to the eyes. Since she dared to do this, then she shouldn't be afraid of being punished. We'll just watch the show. The managing elder obviously didn't expect Lu Muyan to ask such a question so confidently, and for a moment, even he didn't know how to answer. After all, there really was no clause in the sect's rules that a pupil would be punished for beating up a supervisor. Even if there isn't such a clause in the sect's rules, you still shouldn't beat up a supervisor. If every pupil is as arrogant as you, then wouldn't the sect's rules be messed up in the future? Managing elder, can I ask you a few questions first? Lu Muyan asked with a respectful smile, changing her previously presumptuous attitude. An obscure haze flashed across the managing elder's eyes. He thought a little, then nodded. Ask. Can you reserve the exchange items in the manual of the sect's contribution points management office? Lu Muyan asked calmly. Hearing her question, the supervisor who was beaten revealed panic in his eyes. This woman really dared to tell the managing elder what happened just now. Naturally not. The things in the manual can't be reserved. The managing elder furrowed his brows and replied. Since you can't reserve it, then when I wanted to exchange something, why did the supervisor tell me that the thing I want to exchange for is reserved and threaten me to leave as soon as possible? Otherwise I wouldn't be able to imagine the consequences, and the person who made the reservation wasn't someone that a newly promoted pupil like me can afford to offend. Lu Muyan smiled with ridicule. I sure want to ask managing elder just who has such faith that he not only can reserve the spiritual items in the contribution points manual, but also was in existence that I, a newly promoted pupil, couldn't offend. You don't mind letting me meet him, do you? Could it be that this is a so-called sect rule? Is what she said true? The managing elder swept towards the supervisor on the ground with a stern look. The supervisor's eyes flickered and he said, No, she's talking nonsense. I only argued with her a little and she beat me up. Do you think everyone here is deaf and blind? Lu Muyan raised an eyebrow and asked. The spectators twitched the corners of their lips. You can fight all you want, what did it have to do with us? I didn't ask you. The managing elder gave Lu Muyan a cold look. Lu Muyan shrugged. Then what do you want to do, elder? Come and read on our website, Wuxia World site. Thanks, you two parties each stick to your own version in this argument. I naturally want to find out who is telling the truth. The managing elder said, But you beating up supervisors, I will report it and severely punish you. If self-defense is considered wrong, even if I have to take this to the ancestor, he'll still want an explanation. Lu Muyan stood upright, proud and firm. She didn't want to make things too big, but if anyone really wanted to step on her, then she didn't mind being a fox borrowing the backing of a tiger. Moreover, she found that there was a trace of dark evil aura on this managing elder, so there should be something wrong with this old fellow. How daring! You even dared to threaten this old man with the ancestor. The managing elder laughed angrily. I sure want to see how you will go to the ancestor to ask for an explanation. Sure. Then how about we go to the sect leader now first to judge? Lu Muyan said with a look as if that was only of course. The face of the managing elder was even uglier now. No one would have any face if this was brought to the sect leader. This girl sure was bold. Most importantly, he didn't want to heavily punish those supervisors at all and only wanted to turn the big situation small, then turn the small situation into nothing. Just when the two sides were at a stalemate, Ao Rong and Hua Ling Long rushed to the main hall one after another. What's going on? As soon as Hualing Long walked into the hall, she saw the managing elder looking at Lu Muyen with sharp eyes, exuding the pressure of an advanced phase sword venerable. She quickly walked to Lu Muyen and raised an eyebrow to ask, "You're being bullied?" Lu Muyen nodded aggrievedly, "I'm being bullied. Then don't you know to fight back?" Hualing Long rolled her eyes at her angrily. Hearing Hualing Long's words, the pupils present twitched the corners of their lips. It turned out that Lu Muyen dared be so arrogant because of this one who supported her from behind. Lu Muyen blinked innocently, then pointed at the three people lying on the ground in pain and said, "I did beat them." Hualing Long glanced at the three of them, then some arrogance was revealed on her glamorous face, smiled and said, "Well beaten. You didn't make our talisman school lose face. It's also because I'm learning from headmaster's demeanor." Lu Muyen giggled and flattered. She felt warm inwardly. She really chose the right school back then. Only someone with a temperament like Hualing Long would trust the pupil non-discriminatorily and was extremely protective. Everyone was speechless. This really was with what kind of headmaster has what kind of pupil. Ao Rong looked at the two with a headache. This female tyrant dragon was precisely raising this little girl into a tigress. Cough cough. He walked over and asked, "Just what is going on? Why did I just hear that this would be taken to the sect leader?" Lu Muyen recounted what happened again, then said aggrievedly and innocently, "I'm just defending myself. Who would have thought that they were so weak and would be beaten with just a few random punches?" The others rolled their eyes inwardly. The three supervisors were still sword venerable cultivation-based sword masters. How weak could they be? It was obviously she who was too violent. Since those three made the first move, isn't it too much to punish little girl? Ao Rong said, looking at the managing elder. The managing elder could see it clearly now. It seemed that these two were here to support that girl. This is just her one-sided statement. We'll talk about the specifics after it's been investigated. Lu Muyen knew that the managing elder was going to delay this, and as if she believed that there wouldn't be something fishy that would happen. If it weren't for this managing elder's indulgence, then would these supervisors dare do such things so arrogantly and domineeringly? Whether it's just my one-sided statement or not, how about take a look at this? One, so far I'm not sure if the author made this a typo or not, since in the near chapters it hasn't been mentioned, but in the original Chinese, when it's in Qi Ran's perspective in this chapter, he addresses Hualing Long as Hua Shishu. If you search up Shishu, you might come up with martial uncle, usually the disciple's master's younger male friend that might have trained under the same master. But has also been used as an address for females and is actually gender neutral. I don't know if it's a more recent movement to use gender-neutral terms in China or it's something that's occurred in ancient times too. At the same time, I've also heard the female form, Shirgu. I guess it's kind of like the term, Xianxing, that can be translated into sir, mister, but if you read a lot of ancient Chinese novels, you'll realize that there are many times a female teacher is called. It's a form of respect, I believe, to place the female at the same level as the male, especially in the same profession as teacher. Don't quote me on it, I don't study linguistics, haha. Chapter 407. Devil Race Spy. Lu Muyen held a crystal ball in her hand. She injected elemental energy into it, and what occurred between the supervisor and her, beginning from the moment they were talking to when they fought, was all shown clearly in front of everyone. This is the evidence that he abused his power, practiced favoritism and attacked me first. The crystal ball was refined on a whim by her after she came out of the pagodas of enlightenment. Inside was an image reflection array. As long as she activated it with her mental energy, the crystal ball would naturally save the images of what occurred. She wanted to exchange heavy water, but that supervisor constantly delayed, so she used the crystal ball to record what happened just now. Luckily she had foresight. The managing elder watched the crystal ball and his expression darkened. He had no idea that this little girl would have such means. Take the three of them down and await to be handled. He instructed the people of the contribution points hall. In the face of such detailed evidence, it was difficult for him to deal with it, and he could only treat the three as abandoned chess pieces. The three still wanted to argue, but when they saw the grim look cast by the managing elder, they instantly shut their mouths and dared not to speak. Lu Muyen secretly observed the exchanges of the several people and discovered that there was indeed a problem with this managing elder. My hall's supervisors indeed did something wrong, but it's still not right for this pupil to beat the supervisors with such audacity. I still think that she should be punished. The managing elder obviously didn't want to let Lu Muyen go. Punish? I think it's better to replace you, a managing elder who cannot discern right from wrong, as soon as possible. Hualing Long heard that the managing elder was going to punish Lu Muyen, so she instantly grew furious. Do you believe that Laonyang will demolish this contribution points management office first? Hualing Long, this isn't your talisman school. You condoning your pupils' arrogance? How are you a headmaster of a school? Even if you report this to the sect leader, this old man will still insist on punishing Lu Muyen. If he just let Lu Muyen go today, how could he raise his trusted aides and establish his prestige in this contribution points hall in the future? Sure. Then well, go to the sect leader for a judgment. Hualing Long snorted coldly. Did this damned old thing think she was dead to bully her talisman school's pupil? Elderly, aren't you making too much of a fuss? Ao Rong's expression also revealed slight displeasure. Lu Muyen wanted to exchange for a spiritual item your contributions hall clearly still had, but they kept saying it's been reserved. After speaking reason, the supervisor even attacked first to injure. It's not wrong for her to defend herself. It's the supervisors of the contribution points hall who was on the ground injured and not her. The managing elder held on to the fact that the three were injured. With such vicious attacks, such a pupil is too violent and has a bad temperament. How did I attack viciously? Just go call a physician here to examine the injuries now, otherwise if they die later, don't blame it on me. Lu Muyen immediately stopped the three people who were about to be taken away and said coldly, "This old damn thing definitely didn't have a good heart." She was very suspicious that these three people would be killed, then the charges for their deaths would be placed on her. How could she let him succeed? Killing intent flashed across the eyes of the managing elder. He was originally going to kill them, then place it on Lu Muyen's head, but he didn't expect this girl to be so shrewd. You go and call a physician. Hualing Long instructed a pupil, then said with an obscure, ambiguous tone, "So that's how it's going to be. You damned old thing, not only did you bully a pupil of my school, you even want to play with such a devilish idea. Laonyang will see just what more tricks you want to play today. You bully people too much." The managing elder pointed at Hualing Long angrily. "Since you said that we bully people too much, then Laonyang will fulfill that wish." Hualing Long looked at him with ridicule, then instantly attacked. The managing elder was shocked when he saw her act, then immediately took out a defensive magic treasure to resist. However, when an advanced phase sword venerable met a sword saint, the strength gap between them was too great and he was just looking to be beaten. With only one attack he completely lost. After that, Hualing Long beat him up wildly, and he secretly hated her, but he didn't dare to reveal his true strength. Then Hualing Long tapped on the managing elder's forehead, and his gaze instantly unfocused before fainting. Everyone couldn't help but twitch the corners of their lips when they saw Hualing Long beat up the managing elder. The women of the talisman school really couldn't be provoked. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. After a while, the pupil brought a physician from the sect over. The moment he saw Hualing Long, a chill ran up his spine. This female tyrant dragon injured someone again. "Physician Wang, go and check their injuries." Hualing Long said. "Yes." Physician Wang checked their injuries, including the managing elders, then said, "They only suffered from skin-deep injuries, nothing serious." "All right, we've troubled you to make the trip." Hualing Long nodded. "No trouble, no trouble." What a joke, he didn't dare to offend the female tyrant dragon at all. Hualing Long looked at Lu Muyen and asked, "Aren't you going to go exchange what you want?" "Yes." Lu Muyen walked up to a supervisor with a happy smile and said, "I want to exchange heavy water. No one has reserved it this time, right?" "Of course no one's made a reservation, I'll exchange it for you immediately." The supervisor shuddered when he received Hualing Long's grim gaze and quickly exchanged heavy water for Lu Muyen. The managing elder was even knocked unconscious by this woman. How would they dare to refute? Lu Muyen quickly collected the heavy water. She had a feeling that if she didn't successfully exchange it today, there definitely would be a change next time. Hualing Long waited for Lu Muyen to exchange, then directly took her away from the contribution points hall and had no plans of dealing with knocking out the managing elder at all. Ao Rong pondered, then personally took the several people away for treatment. Chi Ran watched the backs of the several people leaving, then looked at that managing elder thoughtfully. Hualing Long took Lu Muyen to a secret room, then said, "That old guy does indeed have a problem, I'll report this matter to sect leader." Then she changed the subject and said sternly, "Next time, you shouldn't take risks to test this kind of thing. If he really is a hidden spy of the devil race, then you'll definitely receive their revenge for sabotaging their plans today." "Heavy water is important to me, so I had to take the risk." Lu Muyen asked Jun Luochen the moment she felt that hidden dark evil aura on that managing elder earlier, and the answer she received was the same as her guess. That person was a devil race that lurked in the 8 Extremes sect. Since she discovered it, then she naturally wouldn't do nothing. Devil race spies were a great hidden danger to the 8 Extreme sect and even the entire Tianling continent. So when Huoling Long and Ao Rong arrived, she first telepathically told them that she discovered that the managing elder had the same aura as that Shin Mu Feng, which then led to the scene where Huoling Long knocked him out to control him. Either way, you need to be more careful in the sect in the future. They'll secretly arrange people to protect you. Huoling Long's beautiful face revealed slight worry. After an hour, Ao Rong hurriedly came over. What's wrong? Huoling Long looked at him and asked. Ao Rong's expression sank. I checked with 2 other elders and he is indeed a devil cultivator. He turned his eyes to Lu Muyen and said, You adapted very well today. No one would think that you acted like this because you discovered his identity as a devil race spy, but you must pay attention to your safety for now. I will be careful. Lu Muyen nodded. Alright, you can return to rest first. We're going to the sect leader to report the situation. Ao Rong waved at Lu Muyen. Lu Muyen also knew the severity of the matter. What was going to happen wasn't something she could participate in, so she left consciously. Chapter 408. Famous. Once again after Lu Muyen left, Ao Rong and Huoling Long went to have a discussion with the sect leader and secretly ordered people to protect her. What happened in the hall of the sect's contribution points hall was quickly spread with exaggeration by the pupils present, vividly explained. Lu Muyen, who originally wanted to keep a low profile, was once again famous around the sect. Now both the newly promoted pupils and the old pupils knew the news that she dared to beat the supervisors and yet went unpunished. Most importantly was that a few days later, the managing elder of the sect's contribution points hall and the 3 supervisors were all replaced. This also implied that Lu Muyen's strength in the inner sect wasn't small, and at least had the support of Ao Rong and Huoling Long, so she could walk however she wanted. Of course, this was all what happened afterwards. On that day, on a floating island of the 8 Extreme sect, Boss, the heavy water was exchanged by someone. An inner sect pupil hurriedly walked into the courtyard and said to a man who sat meditating. The man slowly opened his cold eyes, his voice like ice that couldn't be melted. Just what the hell happened? The pupil recounted what occurred in the sect's contribution points hall and asked, Boss, what should we do now? Are we going to go find that woman and snatch the heavy water? Humph, how can we snatch it? According to what you said, she has Huoling Long and Elder Ao behind her. If we do anything, we will definitely be discovered. The man's expression was grim. All his previous contribution points were exchanged for training time on the floating island and the elemental underground palaces. Who would have thought that he was accidentally injured when he went out on a mission a few days ago and now needed to refine heavy water to heal his wounds? But he only had 100,000 contribution points left, so he greeted the supervisor and made a reservation first, then would go to exchange for it when he collected enough contribution points. Who would have thought that in only a single day, it would be taken by someone else? How despicable. Then what about your injury, boss? We can only think of another way. After my injury's healed, I'll definitely not let that woman named Lu Muyen live well. The man said fiercely. Heavy water wasn't only a material for refining water attribute magic tools, but was also a miraculous product for water attribute sword masters to heal wounds. Originally, he could fully utilize the power of the heavy water to repair the injuries in his body, and even hoped to take another step up in terms of cultivation base, yet who knew that it would be destroyed by that newly promoted pupil of the inner sect out of nowhere. As one of the people in the top 10 of the contribution points ranking, he couldn't swallow this anger, so he must take revenge in the future. Lu Muyen didn't know that she had inadvertently offended the leader of a strong force in the sect. Of course, even if she knew about it, she wouldn't care. She was determined to take the heavy water, and she wouldn't hesitate to fight against that force for it. After returning to her residence, Lu Muyen began to refine the water attribute natal magic tool. During her seclusion there were many people who came to visit, but were all rejected. On a floating island, Chi Ran leaned on a soft couch and asked the person standing in front of him, Lu Muyen hasn't come out yet? Yes. She hasn't come out since she left the contribution points hall and returned to her residence that day. When we went there, we saw that other forces also sent a communication talisman in. They probably wanted to win her over. With half-closed eyes, Chi Ran pondered for a while. Don't disturb her for the time being and report to me immediately when she leaves the courtyard. Yes, young Master Chi. After the person exited the room, Chi Ran's peach blossom-shaped eyes were filled with intense interest, and his crimson lips lightly parted. It's rare to meet such an interesting woman, I sure don't want to scare her away. 3 days later, countless thunderclouds gathered above the sky of Lu Muyan's courtyard. This anomalous phenomenon also attracted the attention of many people. Boom boom. Not long after, countless tribulation thunders descended one after another, with a vast amount of power. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. Those nearby who wanted to figure out what was going on only saw a giant cyan blue bird flap its wings and take the initiative to meet the terrifying tribulation thunder. That's the Cyan Yuan divine beast? Is it going to advance? Some watched in amazement as the cyan blue bird was struck by the tribulation thunder, but there wasn't much damage. Judging from such a force, that Cyan Yuan divine beast is about to advance to Tier 9. That Cyan Yuan is Lu Muyan's spirit pet. Now it's actually going to advance to Tier 9, she sure is very lucky. Someone said with envy, jealousy, and hatred. A Tier 9 demonic beast was equivalent to a strong sword saint powerhouse, so it would also mean that Lu Muyan would have an extra powerful helper in the future. Bing Ji continued to meet the waves of fierce tribulation thunder, and Lu Muyan's refining of the natal magic tool also arrived at a critical moment. When the last wave of the thunder tribulation arrived, her eyes narrowed, and she wielded the set of blue flying swords that had just formed. They fell directly below the tribulation thunders. Traces of thunder power and lightning hit the flying swords. She constantly formed seals and strips of jade-colored runes drilled into the flying sword. Bing Ji was struck by a tribulation thunder, and most of his cyan blue feathers were damaged, even charred black. Upon seeing his, Lu Muyan immediately mobilized the 10 small blue flying swords to surround him. The dozen or so rune belts around the small blue flying swords were mixed with thunder and lightning, not only tempering the sword, but also engraving a supporting array onto the sword body. Boom boom. Another thick tribulation thunder descended, and Bing Ji immediately greeted it with a cry. The 10 small swords also absorbed a lot of the power of the lightning in an instant, emitting a dazzling blue light, then finally merged into a long sword that exuded a cold glint. The long sword moved automatically, absorbing a lot of the power of the thunder tribulation. When the last tribulation thunder struck, Bing Ji was blasted straight to the ground and his aura was weak. All demonic beasts who wanted to advance to Tier 9 must go through the baptism of the thunder tribulation. Other people or demonic beasts couldn't help, and Bing Ji was no exception. Although his aura was unstable right now, but he finally survived the baptism of the thunder tribulation. Because the fluctuation of the thunder tribulation was too great, an array wouldn't be able to conceal it, so instead of letting Bing Ji go somewhere else outside the sect to transcend the calamity, it was better to transcend the calamity in the courtyard. On one hand, it would be much safer to advance for Bing Ji, and on the other hand it could also provide a deterrent effect. At least some people who didn't have eyes wouldn't come to find trouble for her again. And finally, she could also use the power of the thunder tribulation to temper her natal magic tool's last process. About an hour later, the black tribulation clouds in the sky gradually dissipated and a warm light suddenly enveloped Bing Ji. His feathers that had been struck black earlier began to recover and his aura gradually grew stronger. When he opened his eyes, it was amazingly bright. Another 3 days passed, and Lu Muyan's courtyard door finally opened. The news of her leaving also reached the ears of many and people came to visit. After she received them one by one, she discovered that there were 2 forces in the inner sect that wanted to win her over. However, they were both temporarily rejected by her. She wasn't interested in joining any forces. Her current goal was to improve her strength, so she flew in the direction of the elemental underground palaces as soon as she exited seclusion. On a secluded floating island, a handsome man bathed in the sun on a reclining chair. A rough-looking man approached him and said, "Lu Muyan has left the courtyard." Ran slowly opened his eyes and asked gently, "Where did she go?" "She flew on a sword in the direction of the elemental underground palaces." Ran chuckled, got up from the reclining chair and said, "Go. Let's go to the elemental underground palaces to join in the fun. I heard that her aptitude can be ranked first among the newly promoted pupils this time. Let's go and see which chamber she could arrive at in the elemental underground palaces." Seeing the strong interest in Ran's eyes, the rough man twitched the corners of his lips. Their boss seemed to have a great interest in that Lu Muyan. Lu Muyan found the elemental underground palaces according to the map in the jade slip given by Di Tian and found that there were many pupils entering. It could be regarded as a lively place in the sect. There were 8 elemental underground palaces in total, those being metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, ice and thunder. The pupils in the sect naturally chose the underground palace with the same attribute as their own elemental energy attribute for cultivation. Lu Muyan's fire and wood dual attributes had reached the great achievement realm, but the natal magic tool she refined was metal and water, so she first chose the metal elemental underground palace. The top floor of the underground palace was the supervising hall, which was specifically responsible for receiving and managing pupils. Supervisor, I want to buy training time in the elemental underground palace. Lu Muyan walked up to a supervisor and said with a light smile. When the supervisor looked up and saw Lu Muyan, he paused, then said with a professional smile on his face, "How would you like to buy it? Are there different ways to buy it?" Lu Muyan asked in confusion. The supervisor knew that she had not come to the elemental underground palaces to cultivate before, so he explained in detail, there are generally two types of ways to purchase time in the elemental underground palaces. One type is that you know which floor you want to cultivate on, and around how long you need to cultivate in it, then use contribution points to buy it. This type is usually cheaper, 170 contribution points a day, but if you buy it for more time than needed, we don't give refunds. The other way is to buy a day's time first. If you want to continue to cultivate, you can directly pay contribution points in a card slot in the elemental underground palaces array. This way requires 200 contribution points a day, but it isn't wasteful. Then I'll buy the second way. Lu Muyan handed over her identity jade tablet and swiped 200 contribution points. The first one would be more cost-effective if the cultivation time was long, but the number of chambers in the underground palace was fixed. She had never cultivated in it at all, so she had no idea how long it would take. Pupils who enter the elemental underground palaces for the first time must pay attention to one thing. If they feel that the elemental pressure in the underground palace is too heavy, and the meridians of their entire body feels as if it would rupture, then they must come out to rest for a while before re-entering, otherwise the consequences will be at their own risk. The supervisor reminded. All right, thank you for the reminder. Lu Muyan learned the rules of the elemental underground palaces, then entered the stone gate in front and was instantly teleported in. As soon as she stood firm, she felt a dense metal elemental force envelop the entire space with heavy pressure. She could see pupils comprehending and cultivating at intervals around her. She discovered that such gravity was nothing to her. After finding a place with the densest metal element, she sat cross-legged and began to cultivate and comprehend it. 2 hours later, she opened her eyes and found that the pressure of the metal element in the first chamber was of little use to her, so she entered into the second chamber. Ichem? She only stayed in the first chamber for 2 hours. The supervisor whispered in surprise. The elemental underground palaces were open to all inner pupils. In order to encourage everyone to cultivate, the list of the pupils in each chamber will appear on a crystal wall of the supervising area, so as soon as Lu Muyan entered into the second chamber, it attracted the attention of some people. Qi Ran realized that Lu Muyan only took 2 hours before stepping into the second chamber, but there wasn't much fluctuation in his eyes, as if it were to be expected. Young Master Qi, she seemed to have spent around the same amount of time in the first chamber as you. The rough man behind him said. Let's go in to cultivate and take a look at her achievements. After Qi Ran finished speaking, he stepped into the 7th chamber of the Metal Elementa underground palace to cultivate, and his follower cultivated in the 5th chamber. Entering the elemental underground palaces for cultivation was basically a required course for every inner sex pupil each month, so Lu Muyan's actions didn't attract many people's attention at first. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. After stepping into the second chamber, Lu Muyan was suppressed by a wave of metal attribute element that rushed towards her. The density here was much thicker than the first chamber, but it still wasn't enough for her. She only stayed in the second chamber for 4 hours before stepping into the third chamber. Then to the 4th chamber, 5th chamber, and in the 6th chamber she spent a little more time, but it only took 3 days. Then she stepped into the 7th chamber, and as soon as she entered the 7th chamber, she was surrounded by a vast expanse of golden color. An invisible pressure hit her instantly. If it weren't for her strong body, she might have even been crushed to the floor as soon as she came in. Her entry there also successfully attracted the attention of the cultivating pupils in the 7th chamber. When they saw that she was a new face and wasn't crushed flat to the ground by the metal element in here, they all revealed looks of surprise. The shock in Qi Ran's eyes disappeared in an instant. He never expected Lu Muyan to arrive in the 7th chamber so quickly. Remembering that even when it took more than half a month for him to go from the 1st chamber to the 7th chamber at the time, arriving at the Great Achievement Realm, He was still known as the #1 person in the Metal Elemental Underground Palace. Who would have thought that this young woman only took 5 days to reach the 7th chamber? Lu Muyen felt that her entire body was as if it were sinking into the depths of a swamp, and it was difficult to move. The surrounding metal attribute element was strongly suppressing her entire body, and the meridians in her limbs felt as if they were expanding. The density of the metal element in the 7th chamber was 10 times that of the 6th chamber. An arc rose on her lips. The 7th chamber was indeed a challenge to her. She slowly moved her feet, and when she reached her 10th step, she couldn't bear the increasing gravity of the element and had to sit down to comprehend and cultivate. On one hand, the constant pressure of the metal element made her body reach the limit again and again, and on the other hand, the bottleneck she had reached of the elemental comprehension broke. Half a day later, she opened her eyes, got up, and walked forward some more. When her legs began to bend and couldn't bear the pressure, she sat down again and began to cultivate and comprehend. In her own opinion, such speed was considered slow, but in the eyes of the pupils in the 7th chamber, she was simply not human. Qi Ran looked at Lu Muyen, who was about to approach his position, and his peach blossom-shaped eyes revealed a bit more complexity. When he first stepped into the 7th chamber, it took nearly a month from entering the door to where Lu Muyen sat cross-legged now, but she only took 3 days. This made him unable to express his shock in words anymore. Lu Muyen devoted herself to cultivation while the people in the elemental underground palaces began to become chaotic. The news that Lu Muyen, a newly promoted inner sect pupil, had entered the underground palace for the first time but comprehended to the 7th chamber already spread as if it grew wings. She completely broke the record of Qi Ran, the #1 person in the metal elemental underground palace, and it was even an insurmountable length of time. Did you hear? That Lu Muyen who beat up the supervisors last time in the contribution points hall already comprehended to the 7th chamber of the metal elemental underground palace. I've long known about it. And she only took 5 days to enter the 7th floor. Such talent can be considered an abnormal monster. She's that amazing? One must know that it took young Master Qi more than half a month to step into the 7th chamber. She wouldn't have any magic tools on her to help resist the suppression of the metal element, would she? No magic tools can be activated in the elemental underground palaces. The moment a pupil enters into the selected chamber, they would be locked onto by the array in the underground palace. If there were stupid people, they would be completely crushed by the gravity of the underground palace. It's definitely because of her powerful talent for her to enter the 7th chamber. Chapter 410. Junior sister. How about being friends? Pupils in various places of the sect were constantly discussing the topic of Lu Muyen. Heavens! How long has she been in the inner sect and she's already reached this level? I wonder if she can break the record of the 7th chamber and enter the 8th chamber. How's that possible? There's no pupil in the sect who has ever stepped into the 8th chamber of the elemental underground palaces. Even if she's exceptionally talented, it'll still be difficult for her to reach that level. No wonder she's that protected by Headmaster Hua and Elder Ao. Such talent is considered a top existence in the inner sect. So what if her talent to comprehend is that good? Her strength still needs to match. If she can rush into the top 30 of the Rising Soul Steel, then he'll be completely convinced. TSK, you speak as if that's easy. How's it that easy to enter the top 30 of the Rising Soul Steel? Don't indulge in a wild fantasy. Even if she's that amazing right now, she can't be that terrifying. Lu Muyen comprehended little by little. She felt that the drop of liquid formed from the metal attribute within her body became more and more solid, and it even grew slightly in size. When the pressure of the metal element at her current location was no longer an obstacle to her, she stood up and continued forward. When she walked to the side of a handsome and seemingly amorous man, the waves of metal elemental pressure instantly turned into a cyclone to suppress her. The cyclone of the metal element pressed down on her muscles and meridians, and the drop of golden liquid in her body overflowed with layers of undulating halos. Her eyes were firm, her back was bent, but she straightened it a little with her perseverance, moving her steps bit by bit. Junior sister, if you try too hard, it would harm the meridians of your whole body. Qi Ran looked up at Lu Muyen and said with a smile. Lu Muyen glanced at him in surprise, then said with a small smile, "Thank you, senior brother, for reminding me." After thinking about it, she took out a bright red fruit and squeezed it. A few drops of red fruit liquid fell on her arm and were absorbed little by little. She found that the elemental underground palace was indeed a good place. Not only could she cultivate and comprehend the elements, but she could also use the elemental spale gravity to temper her body. Her sorcerer's skill's activation speed also doubled under the pressure here. As long as she reached the 8th chamber and pressured, her sorcerer's skill could break through to the 3rd layer and enter the 4th layer. Birth spiritual fruit. Chi-Ran's expression revealed surprise. This woman's physique was too strong, she actually dared to use her body to directly absorb the birth spiritual fruit to refine her body? Then his pupils constricted. Was Lu Muyen trying to shape her body by using the gravity of the metal elemental pressure in this space? Senior brother, do you want one? Lu Muyen took out a bright red fruit and tossed it to him casually. She could see that the other party had no malice towards her. Chi-Ran stretched out his hand to catch the birth spiritual fruit and said with a smile that wasn't quite a smile, "Junior sister sure is generous." He held the spiritual fruit, but he didn't dare to directly refine and absorb it all like Lu Muyen. He could only squeeze a drop and melt it into his bones. Suddenly he felt a piercing pain. Under the pressure of the metal element, it was as if his meridians were about to break. Lu Muyen sighed, then tossed a bottle of pills over and said, "Take one and it'll relieve your pain." Chi-Ran shuddered as he picked up the bottle and immediately poured one out and took it. A refreshing feeling spread all over his body, and the bursting feeling of his meridians was indeed relieved a lot as his body gradually calmed down. "Thank you, junior sister." He looked up at Lu Muyen. He originally wanted to try Lu Muyen's method of body refining using the elemental pressure when he saw her do it. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks, yet who knew that his body couldn't adapt to such high-intensity body tempering at all? If it weren't for her pill to neutralize the medicinal properties of the spiritual fruit, he would have had to leave the elemental underground palace immediately to avoid him exploding. "You're welcome." Lu Muyen didn't know him, but she could guess who the person who could stay in the area with the densest metal element of the 7th chamber was. Before, she seemed to have offended a lot of people in the inner sect. Seeing that Chi-Ran wasn't hostile to her and even conveyed a kindness to her, she didn't mind befriending him. "Junior sister, don't your meridians hurt?" Chi-Ran couldn't help but smile bitterly when he saw the relaxed expression on her face. "I only used a single drop and it felt like the meridians of my entire body were about to burst. It hurts, but it's still within the range that I can bear." Lu Muyen smiled. She currently felt that the bones and meridians in her entire body were sore and painful, and the spatial gravity of the metal element was pressuring her to a limit, but she just liked this sort of stimulating feeling of constantly challenging the limits of her body. It wasn't that she liked to seek abuse. Instead, reaching and surpassing the limit again and again like this could make her improve quickly and break through faster. "My name is Chi-Ran, junior sister. How about being friends?" Chi-Ran's peach blossom-shaped eyes were filled with brilliant ripples, and his angular face was dyed with a sense of unbridled confidence, which made him even more handsome. If other women saw Chi-Ran's appearance, they would probably be infatuated for a while, but Lu Muyen, who had seen many beautiful men, was indifferent to it. She just judged in her heart that this man was definitely a disaster for many women. "Sure. My name's Lu Muyen." The two smiled in understanding, then began to cultivate on the spot. Chi-Ran was going to borrow Lu Muyen's pill to refine the birth spiritual fruit to temper his body. Lu Muyen sat cross-legged and refined and absorbed all the birth spiritual fruit in her body. A little golden halo penetrated her skin and she gradually indulged in an indescribable state. There were two men sitting cross-legged in the distance near them, and their expressions were filled with shock right now. "That new pupil named Lu Muyen is too strong." One person sighed with a complicated gaze, "We've been surpassed again." "It's a good thing to be surpassed, at least it won't let us be arrogant, with a mountain beyond another mountain." Another person smiled indifferently. "Perhaps the number one person of the metal elemental underground palace will soon be replaced. I think she might surpass Chi-Ran." "It's not she might, but she definitely will. Just wait and see." As time passed, Lu Muyen stayed in the 7th chamber for another 10 days. She found that although the gravity here was useful for suppression, but she could no longer break through her limits. So she got up and walked towards the portal to the 8th chamber. "Junior sister, are you going to enter the 8th chamber?" Chi-Ran opened his eyes and asked Lu Muyen in utter shock. Lu Muyen nodded, "I want to try." The metal elemental gravity in the 8th chamber is 10 times that of the 7th chamber. "I tried it once and as soon as I entered, it felt like I was going to be crushed into meat sauce. If I didn't exit in time, my body would have been damaged." He paused, then continued, "Won't junior sister cultivate for a little while longer in the 7th chamber? I feel that the gravity pressure here is still very useful to you." "No need, I prefer to challenge the limit. The 7th chamber doesn't have the feeling I want anymore." Lu Muyen turned her head and smiled, Senior brother, you can take the most difficult step if you have the courage to try. If you fail once, then try again. Qi Ran was stunned when he heard what she said, then said thoughtfully, Junior sister is right. Lu Muyen said no more, turned, and stepped into the portal to the 8th chamber. As soon as she was teleported into the 8th chamber, before she could even stand firm, she was shrouded by the gravity of surging metal attribute element, and she couldn't help but half kneel on the ground. Chapter 4:11. Want as many as you have. Lu Muyen was half kneeling in the space of the 8th chamber, and the bones on her entire body made crisp sounds. She felt that she was being pressured by the gravity of the space here in a small crevice, and even breathing began to be extremely difficult. She gasped and exited the 8th chamber. The moment she returned to the 7th chamber, she quickly began to adjust herself. Qi Ran and the other two in the 7th chamber were shocked when they saw her step into the 8th chamber, then they were relieved to see that she quickly retreated. If she could really cultivate in the space of the 8th chamber, then she really would be heaven-defying. Lu Muyen ignored the complicated gazes from the three of them. She calmly recovered her breaths, then after an hour she stepped into the 8th chamber again. Is she crazy? One of the two men exclaimed. The other furrowed his brows and said, she should be challenging herself. Challenging herself? Isn't this not knowing her limits? Maybe. Qi Ran didn't expect Lu Muyen to try again so quickly either. He was a little puzzled by Lu Muyen's approach. Even if she wanted to challenge her limits, but she should only do what she could. When she entered the 8th chamber this time, Lu Muyen still felt the pressure that made her breathless, but she gritted her teeth and half knelt down to run the spiritual energy in her body. The drop of golden liquid was constantly rippling, and the meridians in her entire body felt like they were about to burst open. The stabbing pain that spread was like countless fine long needles stabbing at her body. She closed her eyes that were clear and firm. When her body reached the limit, she immediately exited the 8th chamber. After returning to the 7th chamber, she continued to meditate to recover quickly, and even took a meridian's nourishing pill. A wave of coolness entered the meridians of her entire body, and the bursting feeling gradually dissipated while her meridians also contracted back to normal with the healing of the pill. After an hour, she got up and continued to step into the 8th chamber. The three people in the 7th chamber were puzzled by her approach. They just felt that she was too impulsive and couldn't see her own limits, overestimating herself. In such a way, 2 days passed and Lu Muyen continued to enter into the 8th chamber, then return into the 7th chamber after a period of time, repeating at least more than 10 times. Is there something wrong with her brain? She obviously can't overcome it, but she continues to seek abuse. One of the two said. Although they haven't been to the 8th chamber, but they could also guess that the taste wasn't that good. The other glanced at him and asked, haven't you seen a problem? What problem? Each time she enters the 8th chamber, the time she spends in there is longer. From the few breaths of time from the beginning to the present 2 hours. The pupils of the person who spoke first constricted, and immediately realized her purpose. She's actually really challenging her own limits, and it seems that she even succeeded. Maybe she'll be the first person in the inner sect to break the chains of being unable to enter the 8th chamber to cultivate. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. Seeing Lu Muyen's attempts again and again, Qi Ran was shocked beyond words. He suddenly felt that he had taken a huge detour before, so even though he could easily deal with the 7th chamber right now, but he still couldn't set foot into the 8th chamber. He adjusted his breath for a while, his eyes firm, and he also stepped into the 8th chamber. As soon as he stepped into the 8th chamber, he found that he was crushed to the ground just like last time, but this time he didn't give up immediately, gritted his teeth for a few breaths before returning to the 7th chamber. During Lu Muyen's advance and retreat, Qi Ran also began to imitate her and tried to stay in the 8th chamber for a longer period of time. But even with the same attempt, each time Qi Ran exited, he was in a much more sorry state than Lu Muyen. However, he wasn't discouraged and instead became even bolder as he tried. Lu Muyen knew that Qi Ran was modeling her, but she didn't dislike it and instead felt that this person was indeed a talent, abandoning his previous thoughts while having the courage to accept new attempts. Such a person would be able to walk for longer. Senior brother Qi, do you feel that your meridians are always burning painfully each time you come out to the point you need to recover for a long time for the swelling pain to subside? Lu Muyen asked with a smile when Qi Ran exited the 8th chamber for the 4th time. Qi Ran had a look of endurance on his face. Right now, his entire body was truly hurting so badly, and he smiled bitterly. Isn't Junior sister like this? Lu Muyen smiled and took out a bottle of pills and shook it. Of course I also feel the pain, but after taking the meridian's nourishing pill, the bursting pain will be greatly alleviated, and it can also nourish the meridians to not be greatly affected by the 8th chamber's metal elemental gravity suppression. Junior sister, do you still have any pills? Chi-Ran's eyes lit up. I do. But this time I can't give it to senior brother for free. Lu Muyen blinked as if a sly little fox. Chi-Ran's lips twitched. He felt that it wasn't so simple for her to take the initiative to introduce the effect of the meridian's nourishing pill. Of course, senior brother would also be embarrassed to take your things for nothing. He looked at her in amusement and said, 5,000 contribution points for one pill. I can sell it to senior brother if you want. Lu Muyen smiled meaningfully while playing with the pill. Senior brother, this meridian's nourishing pill can not only nourish the meridians, but also improve one's cultivation base. It's now or never. Her contribution points were about to run out now. The consumption each day in the 8th chamber was simply too shocking. If there was no way to obtain some more contribution points, she could only spend at most another 2 days in here before being teleported out. Junior sister, you only need 2,500 to 3,000 contribution points for a grade 4 pill in the contribution points hall. Isn't it your meridian's nourishing pill too expensive? Chi-Ran chuckled. So it turned out that this little fox wanted contribution points, thereby taking out this pill to lure him. Lu Muyen raised an eyebrow and said with a smile, not expensive. My pill is a grade 4 pill but has grade 5 effects. The grade 5 pills in the contribution points hall needs at least more than 6,000 contribution points to exchange. Alright, I'll try one first. Although using 5,000 contribution points to exchange for a grade 4 pill was expensive, but he also wanted to try this meridian's nourishing pill to see if it was as amazing as she said it was. Lu Muyen handed over her identity jade token and the pill together, then blinked and said with a smile, Senior brother, I promise you won't regret it after taking it, wanting a second one after taking the first. Chi-Ran held his forehead speechlessly. This woman did business even here in the elemental underground palace. He really didn't know what to say about her. He spent 5,000 contribution points for the pill from Lu Muyen, then took it. A trace of coolness spread all over his body. After the meridian's nourishing pill dissolved in his dantian, it began to warm and nourish along the meridians of his entire body. Not long after, Chi-Ran discovered that the bursting feeling of the meridians in his body, which should have taken 2 hours to subside, gradually faded with the coolness and finally returned to calm. Most importantly, when the meridians returned to their normal state, the elemental energy in his body even became slightly purer. After running a few macrocosmic orbits around his body, he now discovered that in this meal attribute gravity space, when running his elemental energy, it was even faster. If he continued to temper at this speed, the bottleneck he was about to reach would soon be able to be broken through. Junior sister, give me some more of this meridian's nourishing pill. I want as many as you have. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.